Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the SimGrid YouTube channel here for another season of Sprint Cup. What a night we've got in store for you. We start things off round 1 out of 6 here in Italy at Misano, and the story is obviously, can we see a return of Season 3? BMW Team G2 Esports of Arthur Kammerer, Niles Noyox and Gregor Schill took the glory last time out, and it all starts again here for the first time of 6 over the next couple of weeks, taking us all the way up to September the 23rd at Spa-Francorchamps. It's Dave Christie here. Alongside me tonight is going to be Andy McEwan. Andy, good evening. We're here at Misano, starting things all off fresh again. Brand new BOP for the season ahead, and it's going to be a mixed bag this season.
Yeah, I think so. Good evening, David. Evening, everyone else. Really looking forward to this. My first time covering the Sprint Cup. I feel like I've really made it now, because this is one of the premier series here on the SimGrid. I've watched a number of the races over the last season. It's always really exciting, a high quality entry of teams and drivers as well. A lot of names that are fast becoming familiar to me, and I'm sure to our viewers. They've been watching for an awful lot longer than I have. And yeah, 6 fantastic race circuits that we're visiting as well. Misano, that we're starting the season at here tonight. Bit of an underrated circuit, in my opinion. Quite fun to drive, I've found. So yeah, hoping for 6 really, really good weeks of racing.
As you said, a very underrated track, and I think it's time we get a little bit more acquainted with the track here in Italy at Misano. So let's head on board for our track guide.
On board at Misano on the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Uvo of Orange 1 FFF Racing Team, heading through into Variante del Parco through turn 1 at 137 km an hour in third gear, down to second for turn 2, and back up to third gear as you hit the rev limiter through turn 3. Short run down to turn 4 at Rio, hitting brakes just before the 50-metre marker board, down to first gear through turn 4, into the right-hander at turn 5, before the 90 left at turn 6, which puts you onto the second of multiple straightaways here at Misano. Up through the left-hand kink at turn 7, before the hefty braking zone. Down from 5th at 230, down to first gear at about 85 km an hour through Quercia at turn 8. Now the car to drift to the left-hand side before the braking zone for turn 9, which then leads into turn 10, Tramonto, another first gear corner. Now powering through it, letting the car drift to the left-hand side to get the maximum momentum carry down this third straightaway here at Misano, before one of the fastest corners at this circuit. Turn 11, Carboni, taken at 240 km down in 5th gear as we head through into turn 12. Down a couple of gears to 170 km an hour in third before hard on the brakes through turn 13. First gear once again through Caro this time. Then into the left-hander at turn 15. Before the left-hander at Misano takes us on to the start-finish straight. And that's a hot lap here at the Misano World Circuit. Marco Simoncelli on board the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo.
Huge thank you then to Alex Goldschmidt for that onboard lap there in the Lamborghini. 20-minute qualifying session has just got underway. We'll give the cars a couple of minutes to get their tyres warmed up, get themselves bedded in for this qualifying session. But Andy, the real talk of the town tonight is the fact that no return for our reigning champions, BMW Team G2 Esports. Nowhere to be found, but we do have another challenger taking up the reins of the BMW M6 in the form of the number 69 Space Pace and Beetle Sim Racing DE.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they get on, isn't it? And well, I guess that's not a bad method to have, is it, for G2 Esports? Win the championship and then vanish completely, because then you can leave as the champions, and you don't have to go through the pressure of coming back and trying to do the same again and win it 2 seasons on the bounce. Something that no team has done so far across the first 3 seasons of the Sprint Cup. We have had a different team come out on top every year, a different car as well. Porsche, Ferrari and BMW have all taken the crown once over the last 3 seasons, and there's a very good chance, I think, looking down the entry list, that we could see a fourth different team and manufacturer at the top of the points table by the end of this season. So it's shaping up to be a really competitive season, but yeah, with the favourites from last season not here, a wide open one as well.
Absolutely, and the thing that I like about Misano is, you touched on it earlier, Andy, is the fact that it is one of those tracks that we don't see an awful lot of here at the likes of the SimGrid or on a settled course of competition in general. It seems to be one of those tracks that gets left out into the rain, so to speak, and I don't understand why. It's such a fantastic aggressive track, lots of overtaking opportunities, and really one of the high speed circuits. I compare this quite a lot with the likes of, say, Zolder. I think it's a fantastic high speed track and always guaranteed to get lots of action here, especially in these longer races.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, really. Aggressive. There are some circuits, Spa, for example, jumps to mind immediately, where to go quickly at Spa, you have to be smooth, you have to be restrained, you have to be patient. Don't just go charging off into the corners, gung-ho and hope for the best, a bit like that. As Eamon Murphy in the Yas Heat car has a bit of a close moment through the final corner, which they fight for some clear track here in the early stages of qualifying. But yeah, places like Spa, you have to apply a very different driving style to the one that you have to here at Misano. Here, it's all about aggression, using the curb, getting the cars rotated through what are quite tight corners, but actually corners that still have quite a high average speed. Lots of sort of short apex corners, if you like, where it's a 90 degree or 180 degree corner, and it's point and squirt. You carry the speed through, and then you get on that throttle as early as possible. Use the curb to rotate the car as well, and that's actually the kind of circuit that I really enjoy driving, because you can really grab the car by the scruff of the neck and sort of force a lap time out of it, and it definitely will reward, I think, the more committed, aggressive drivers who don't mind living life on the edge.
2.6 miles here at Misano tonight. We're just watching the cars coming up through Curvone down into the Curva del Caro. This is the tight right-hander, really, before they go round the sweeping left-hander towards Curva Misano, that final corner before they come back onto the start-finish straight here. This is Chris Hartfeld for GTWR R8G Academy. Comes across the line. What can he get done? Gets across, no improvement. In fact, there is. It's a little bit slower to update, gets about 0.3 of an improvement on his previous time there. And yet again, the thing to watch for here, Andy, is the fact that we've only got 5 minutes done of our qualifying session, and already there is 21 cars split by less than a second, and you can almost guarantee within the next 10 minutes I think that you're going to have maybe, say, second to 25th separated by maybe 7/10.
Yeah, well, that's certainly what we saw in free practice, wasn't it? It was insanely close, and already in this qualifying section, a very similar pattern is emerging. The top 4 drivers so far in the session are covered by less than 1/10 of a second. It's Harry Spears in the Mercedes, number 285, that's fastest. Giuseppe Montalbano, second fastest in the Bentley. And Michael Tauscher here coming through, trying to join that party as well. Tobias Grunewald is third, and Luke Whitehead fourth. And those 4 covered by 84 1,000ths of a second. You mentioned, though, it's not a very long lap. It packs quite a lot into quite a short layout, but because there are quite a lot of low average speed or tighter corners but high average speed, it does generally produce lots of really, really closely matched lap times. And yeah, already in the first quarter or so of qualifying, that seems to be the case.
Yeah, it certainly is, and just watching how close everything is. In fact, we're already up to 27 cars within, what's that, 0.8 of a second. That is ludicrous, and it's only going to get even closer. The other thing on that as well is we see a brand new pole for Harry Spears, 133.246. Chris Hardfeld comes across the line, improves very, very slightly, 133.408. But again, with it being a 90-minute race as well, strategy comes in such an important factor to play tonight, especially with the fact that they're going to be fighting each other. But also the fact that, how far do you push? How hard do you push? We'll come back to that in a second, because Michael Tauscher for Random Passable Racing in the 992 Porsche is on charge for pole position down to Misano. The final corner comes at through very, very nip and tuck right now to take it from Harry Spears. It might be second place. He takes it. Michael Tauscher jumps into the lead then, 1:33.234. And I've got a feeling we're going to be very, very breathless by the end of qualifying tonight, Andy.
And that is just the way that I like it. A nice close qualifying session. The top four still covered by less than a tenth, whilst 5th and 6th place, Tobias Grunewald in the Porsche and the McLaren of Luke Whitehead, they actually set identical lap times to the nearest thousandth of a second. But because Grunewald set it first, he gets that 5th place provisionally on the grid. But plenty of time for the teams and drivers to improve upon those lap times. They also have the opportunity to come into the pit lane, change tyres perhaps if they want to, maybe make a few setup tweaks. The track temperature, David, is incredibly high, 41 degrees Celsius, the track temperature, and that is going to have an effect on tyre wear, isn't it? Across qualifying, you will start to notice a little bit less grip when you get onto your 3rd or 4th flying lap, but in the race later on, that's certainly going to be a factor.
It certainly is, and again, that's going to really eat into the tyres quite significantly towards the end. The other thing I'm going to draw your attention to, Andy, is have a look on the left-hand side in the timing tower. 30th place of Darren King, 8/10 of a second off a pole. We have 30 cars within 9/10 of a second. That is absolutely eye-watering to look at.
And there are still 2 or 3 teams that haven't actually registered a time as well, so they most likely will jump into that 1 second bracket as well. It is insanely close, and that bodes for close racing, but actually it means that getting track position in this qualifying session is going to be even more important. Florian Becker across the line will stay in 31st, but when the field is as tightly bunched as this, it's not going to be easy to make progress through the field because everyone is capable of running more or less the same pace. So you do need to try, easier said than done, I know, but you need to try and get to the sharp end of the grid, buy yourself that track position right from the get-go, because it ain't going to be easy to make your way through such an evenly matched field in the race.
10 minutes left to go in qualifying here for the first round of Season 4 of the Sprint Cup on here on the SimGrid. If you like what you're seeing, as always, please leave us a like on the video and hit that subscribe button as well. Tobias Grunewald coming through the final couple of corners now. He's on to the left-hander. This is going to be super, super close for the Unicorns of Love Porsche driver down into the final corner. It's looking very, very good. It's certainly going to take him above where he is right now. It could even be pole position for Tobias Grunewald. Goes cross line, takes pole position. 9.5 minutes left to go. Shots fired, and Tobias Grunewald top of the timing screens there. 1:33.210, 2 1,000ths of a second there. Unbelievable stuff.
An all Porsche front row at the moment. This should be a good Porsche circuit. The rear engine cars will accelerate off those tight corners pretty well. They always get good traction out of the sort of first and second gear corners. Right, Florian Becker across the line was 33rd, goes 29th, so that was about 3 or 4 tenths quicker than he'd gone previously, and that moves him only to 24th place, but he's only only to 28th place. He's only 6/10 of a second though off pole position. Chris Melbourne here is only half a second off pole position, and he's all the way down in 25th position in the big Bentley, which you'd think would be far too heavy and cumbersome for a tight and technical circuit like this, but because it rides the curb so well, David, the Bentley actually is capable of going pretty well here at Misano.
Well, this could be pole position for Chris Melbourne. He's got a huge gap coming out the front there. 5th place for Chris Melbourne. That is a brilliant lap, and as you said, that big cumbersome machine is not who you would think would be in contention there, and you see that there, 7 100ths of a second off of the pole position. Boothby though is half a second up and goes into 5th place as well. So now we're starting to see, what's that? That is 6 cars within 1/10 of a second. I mean, this is almost scary, Andy. The consistency and the intensity of which these drivers are putting in these lap times.
And the next 10th of a second covers the next 5 or 6 drivers as well. This is starting to get silly now, isn't it? Right, what can Mikhail Novakovsky do here in the Carbon SimSport McLaren? 17th place at the moment. Is this going to be an improvement? It is, only a small one, up to 14th, but he's less than a quarter of a second away from pole position. Mike Noble now in the brightly liveried Audi comes out of the tight right-hander at turn 10, heads up into my personal favourite sequence of corners. We ride on board with the FFS Sprint Mammals Audi through the flat-out right-hander at 11, flat through 12, and then you start to hit the brakes just there through turn 13, braking on a turn using all of the curb, and then turning into the tight right-hander at 14. The Audi should change direction quite nicely now through the final couple of corners, as Mike Noble has a stab at that front row.
Through the final corner then, and as you said, that Audi looking very, very planted indeed, uses all the curbs that it possibly can do, goes across the line, and second place, Mike Noble, not quite enough there, 2/100ths of a second behind Montalbano, and there's Tobias Grunwald just making his way round the tail end of the circuit just now. Then just one corner left to go. We've got a yellow flag with the number 16 here, but here is Tobias Grunwald out the final corner. I don't think he's going to improve anything on this. He does! Joint at the top! Are you kidding me? We've got Joint for pole position with 6.5 minutes left to go, and that teaches me, Andy, for saying that I don't think he's going to improve.
Oh, and another improvement there for Egor Ogrodnikov as well, who jumps from outside the top 10 to 4th. I don't think I have ever seen that. That is absolutely astonishing. Giuseppe Montalbano and Tobias Grunwald with an identical time to the third decimal place, but because the Bentley driver set the time first, he gets the pole position if it stands as it is. But of course, we may still see some more improvements over the final 6 minutes. I'll tell you what, I knew Sprint Cup was going to be exciting this season. I did not expect it to get off to, quite literally, the most competitive start possible. The top two tied on the same time, and still 6 drivers at the top of the times, covered by less than a tenth. Incredible.
It's fantastic, fantastic stuff. I didn't even notice Giuseppe Montalbano taking pole position because we were talking about Chris Melbourne as the highest Bentley when he got up into fourth place there, and then he snuck in with that Bentley onto the front row there. So again, just showing exactly what these big, heavy things can do. And just looking there, as Jason Absmeyer comes across line, jumps up into P22 there. But again, 34 cars within 9/10 of a second. This is probably, I mean, I've only been with the SimGrid for just under a year now, and I hand on heart, this is one of the closest qualifying sessions we have ever had. This is just incredible, and you think this is going to be a 90-minute race, so you don't even have the luxury of thinking, right, we've got a 6-hour race to go here, we've got to keep things calm. This is just going to be all hell breaking loose in the next 5 minutes.
Dustin Hoffman there jumps into 34th place, but yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And what's astonishing is that, yes, it's not the longest of laps, but it packs 16 corners officially. It's 15 really, because turn 7, let's face it, isn't a corner, but still there are a lot of corners packed into the circuit, and the more corners you have on a track, the more spread out generally the times tend to be. But this has always been a trait at Misano. It always produces really close lap times in qualifying and close racing in, well, the races. Alexander Smolyar then comes out to the final corner in the Racefield team Aston Martin, 20th for him at the moment, only 4 tenths off pole, and he finds 3 of those tenths to move into 9th position. That was a decent improvement, that, to get into the top 10. Lars Kisser looking to do something similar now then for the Unicorns of Love in the number 15 Porsche. He has been dropped back out of the top 10 now. When you're only quarter of a second off pole though, David, that has to be massively frustrating to be so far down the grid.
And that's it. I mean, you look at, say, like Chris Melbourne and then Luke Whitehead, who we thought, oh, that's a great position for them. They're in P4 or P5, and then they get dropped completely out of the running by about a tenth of a second. What is even more frightening is we have one car, Reece Tattersall, is outside 9/10 of a second. We need to get him in. We need to send him all our speed, all our energy, and get him into the party as well. If we could, admin just remove all his weight as well, just for one lap, let him get into the party as well. But I mean, I'll be honest, I've never seen this before, where we've got the entire field, with the exception of one car, Andy, split by less than 9/10 of a second. It just absolutely melts my mind. I can't actually comprehend what we're about to see in this race.
And what's even more impressive is that it's not just one car that happens to be dominating, and it's all of the Aston Martins, for example, or Bentleys that are doing really well. We've got 4 different marques represented in the top 4: Bentley, Porsche, Audi and Aston Martin, with a Mercedes and a McLaren also in the top 10 as well. So it is a great variety. It shows that the BOP is working as well. I know that racing drivers in particular like to whinge about balance of performance, but it is clearly working because all of the cars are operating on a pretty similar level. Killian Ryan Meenan then into the final corner, 25th place for the Aston Martin driver. We know that Killian is quick though, and it looks as though he's going to improve by at least a couple of tenths. This could get him into the top dozen. It does, just into 12th position then, demotes Lars Kisser down to 13th.
Do you know what's crazy as well is the fact that as Jonas Salvalainen comes across line, goes into 10th position, is the fact that, you come away and say, oh, I qualified P33, and you're devastated. You think, oh, I'm at least 2-3 seconds off the pace. But Dan King's in 33rd. He's 7/10 of a second off the pace. I've been commentating on races where that would have been good enough to get you in the top 10.
I've seen races where that would get you on the front couple of rows, it's but that actually is quite nice for the drivers, because it means that, when you're a second and a half off the pace in qualifying, it can be quite disheartening really, because you think, well, where on earth am I going to find a second and a half? But half a second or 4/10, that's kind of doable. So for Leonardo Porco here, who are watching in the virtual racing team Porsche, he is just over 5.5 tenths off pole. He might well feel that there's another couple of tenths at least in his back pocket, and that could find him 15 positions on the grid. So it's a little bit more achievable when the times are this tight to make that little improvement that could actually gain you a lot of positions.
Certainly could. Here comes Mike Noble coming through as well, but this is Leonardo Porco for Virtual Racing Team out the final corner, or into the final corner even. He is up a little bit, could be moving up into the top 20. We'll keep an eye as he goes across the line. What can Leonardo Porco do? It's not an improvement. 29th position he stays. Here comes Mike Noble then. He's got a couple of corners to go, and he's not going to do anything because he's invalidated his lap. Now, if he gets a move on, he will have time to get into a new lap here. But there is the rather sketchy looking car there of Giuseppe Montalbano there. I'm pretty sure that's the livery that's on that one. It makes it look like it's rather distressed. But I mean, qualifying coming to an end here, Andy, and the cars that are out on track already may have a shot at this, but Luke Whitehead is a 10th up at the moment. That could be enough to move him up into the top 10, maybe even top 7. He comes across the line. I think he invalidated it on that last corner there. He went very, very wide out that final corner. Lars Kisser jumps up into P9 then, 1/10 of a second off of the pace, but as it stands, it's still Giuseppe Montalbano ahead of Tobias Grunwald on the front row. But Montalbano is on the charge right now. He's improving. What was the way to actually say is, if Grunwald could have improved his sector 3, and he won't, because the top 5 apart from Montalbano are in pits. It's very, very wide out the final corner. Surely that's invalidated the lap. He comes across the line, and yep, he invalidated it on that final corner there. So your top 5 look pretty solid as it is. Great improvement for Mikhail Novkowski there for Carbon Sim Sport, up into the top 20 there, into top 15 even. And Michael Tauscher, again, Andy, you see so many cars just going so wide and pushing way too hard at that final corner.
Yeah, and once you get onto those big sausage curbs, it can really unsettle your car. We saw that in the GT World Challenge, didn't we, at the weekend? And there, Eamon Murphy finds, I think, 9 positions that was, to jump into the 9th spot then, and he's the only Ferrari inside the top 10. We have got good variety up at the sharp end, but the Ferraris, the prancing horses, perhaps struggling, ironically, at their home race here in Misano. But, well, David, that was the best qualifying session that I think I've ever had the pleasure of commentating on. To have so many cars, the top 7 covered by less than 1/10 of a second, that is absolutely insane, and I cannot wait for the race to get started.
What I love is the fact that Montalbano on pole position has the heaviest of the balance power. They've got the full 30 kilos on that car. So it'll be very, very interesting to see how the Amiga e-racing team get out of the blocks there on that pole position. Joining them on row 1 is going to be the number 14 Unicorns of Love of Tobias Grunwald and Leon Otoki, and then row 2 is going to be the 1, 2, 3 FFS Sprint Mammals of Joe McCauley and Mike Noble in that Audi, alongside Yiger Ogoronnikov. We didn't actually say much of them, but SimWare Pro team up onto row 2 with Yaroslav Shevritilov alongside him in that 4th place. 5th place is going to be George Boothby in the number 47 UKOG team alongside Niels van de Kelk. Keep an eye out for them. Niels is devastatingly fast. Had a bit of a poor run of form lately, but he'll be looking to change that tonight in this opening round of the season 4 of Sprint Cup. The 992 of Michael Tauscher for Random Pastable lines up with Maciek Malinowski alongside him behind the wheel, and then on row 4 is going to be Harry Spears and Chris Melbourne as well, the 285 of Sidemax Motorworks, Harry Spears and Marcel Fusi, alongside the number 70 Bentley of Volante Racing, Aztec Sim Sport, Chris Melbourne and Oliver Seitz. And we head very shortly over to the grid to get going. Jaroslav Hontig in the 39 Yaz Heat team is pairing up with Eamon Murphy as well in 9th position. And then in 10th position, Lars Kisser in the number 15. In fact, I think that's slightly incorrect because I'm pretty sure that Kisser actually got 9th place there, unless he got pipped at the post there. But we'll have a look at that on the grid. In fact, no, he did. So he did get pipped at the post there. Lars Kisser did go cross line in 9th, but obviously beaten out by the Yaz Heat team. So Lars Kisser in the number 15 Unicorns of Love Black Edition. He's going to be teaming up with Nicholas Hauben. Then on row 6 is going to be Alexander Smoljar in the 889 Racefield team, teaming up with Danila Sheriprin. And then in 12th place is going to be Jonas Salvleinen in the number 11 Griphax Engineering. Also joining him is Jesse Kalpinen. Again, two very, very fast drivers. Look out for them. Row 7 is Hamada Arkizi and Hamada Arkizi and Luke Whitehead in the SDL Esports by Logitech G. And then in the 125, it's Carbon Sim Sports, Mikhail Novkowski and Nick Babin in P14. On row 8 in P15 is going to be the number 7 Carbon Sim Sport Blue team of Damien Pavlos and Marist Ford-Zidlo. And then alongside him is going to be Killian Ryan Meenan in the 888, who has got Cormac Ryan Meenan in his team as well. Row 9 in 17th place is Chris Hartfeld in the GTWR R8G Academy car, along with Marco Muri. And then beside them on the grid is going to be the 96 of Sidemax Motorworks, Lucas Kreuzer and Tinko van der Velde. Again, another team to watch out for tonight. Then you've got Lucas Kreuzer in the 96, as we said, with Tinko van der Velde. Behind them on row 10 is the number 81 team of Blackhawk Racing's Christopher and Sasha Glatter. Alongside them is going to be Jack Noller in the 36 with Sheldon Muscat. We keep going with the 991 of Garage 911, powered by Equipper, Marco Bischoff with Titus Conrad. And then alongside him is the 23 car of Volante Racing, Aztec Sim Sport. That was Alexander Sesher and Vanko Dimitrov. And it just keeps going. Honestly, they just keep going. The 71 on row 12 in 23rd place is the XL Racing by Renfeld and of Felix Repair. Amazing to see them down in that position, 23rd. But joining the 71 of Felix Repair is Maximilian Walmuth. Keep an eye on them coming through. And then in 24th position is the 666 Tauro Sports team of Jason Absmeyer and Leslie Oliphant. 25th position is the 112 of TF Racing's Manos Gerardis and Gianni Saknis. And then alongside them on the grid is the 166 Beetle Sim Racing DE, Alex Rodizzi and Sven Schluter behind the wheel of that car. The 99 lines up in 27th position. That is Team Racing Points Flavio Mancini along with Alessio Milani. And on the grid alongside them is the 728 Virtual Racing team of Gabriele Gargini and Leonardo Porco, who we saw earlier on as well. And then 29th is going to be Andre Michel for Turn 1 Racing alongside Marcel Villert. Alongside them is going to be Lasse Schwert in the 16. That's Unicorns of Love. I love this. Unicorns of Love, sexy edition. Lasse Schwert alongside Florian Ducourt. And then on row 16 is the 111 of Elferspot.com's Florian Becker and Richard Lindhorst. Keep an eye out them in the Porsche. And in 32nd position is going to be the 38 Dalking Community Car of Dan King and Jan Willem van Ommen. We know they have got a lot of pace as well. Row number 17 is going to be the 69 of Space Pace and Beetle Sim Racing's Bastian Offerman and Jan Batomski. And then beside them is going to be the 102 and that is Arthur Cernacki in the PWSR Alpha with Kieran Patterson as well. And then the back of the grid, row 18, 35th position, it's Distinct GG with Josh Inman and Rhys Tattersall behind the wheel. Alongside them is going to be the 17 of Pulse Sim Sport 17's Rasmus Christensen and Jonathan Seville. And I don't know about you, but I need to go and lie down in the dark room after this.
Yeah, that's one heck of a grid, isn't it? There is one amendment to that grid, actually, that I've noticed. There's a gap on the ninth row of the grid where Chris Harteveld's number 32, GTWR RHG Academy Ferrari, should be, but they disconnected. And number 17 car, has disconnected. Not the 17th place car, the number 17 car had disconnected. So they'll be starting at the back, which is actually the Pulse Sim Sport Ferrari, of Rasmus Christensen and Jonathan Seville. So they're going to be right at the back of the grid, having disconnected at a pretty inopportune moment. Although, rather disconnect before the race starts than part way through it, I suppose. A little bit easier to recover, maybe. But it is not going to be an enjoyable task starting from the very back of this grid. And one thing we haven't really touched on, David, is just how tight this first sequence of corners is through the chicane at 1, 2 and 3, and then that really tight section through 4, 5 and 6. If you're starting anywhere beyond about 5th or 6th on the grid, you're at real risk. You can see how tight it is there as the track sort of hooks back on itself through turns 4 and 5. If you're anywhere outside the top 2 or 3 rows, you're going to be at risk heading into that section on lap 1.
You absolutely are. And the other thing as well to bear in mind is that, with this season 4 of the Sprint Cup, the enhanced rules from Race Control have been in effect. I think they were in effect for season 3 as well, where they're really been clamping down on any untoward behaviour, any type of physical contact between the cars. And this is where they need to kind of keep an eye out and watch out for themselves. It's so important that they get the first 10-15 minutes out of the way without any damage, without any incidents, and as clean as they possibly can to set themselves up in the best possible position. Because if you get penalties in this, you can almost guarantee, with how close this field is, you can almost certainly guarantee that you are not going to be in a chance of winning this if you get, say, like a stop-go or a drive-through penalty on that as well. So lots to consider here, but I just don't know. I mean, normally we'd be like, oh, well, yeah, I think this person's got a chance, or any one of these 35 cars could take this, given that they were all split by 0.8 of a second. Any one of them could have just had a bad day at qualifying and could turn up the heat in race pace as well. So qualifying, it is massively advantageous, but it's almost useless for us to use it as a gauge of where the pace is, Andy. So, what are you thinking ahead of us actually going green here?
It's going to be a good race, and that's about as confident a prediction as you're going to get out of me. There's a poll, by the way, in our YouTube chat at the moment, asking whether the number 340 Bentley will win from pole position. I can tell you only 28% of our viewers think that they will, and that really tells you all you need to know about just how competitive the next 90 minutes are going to be.
Yep, here we go then. The cars round the corner 2x2 Giuseppe Montalbano for the 340 team, leading alongside Tobias Grunwald. The lights go green. Away we go then for season 4 of the Sprint Cup here on the SimGrid. Giuseppe Montalbano has the inside line for turn number 1, and the cars, the first 10, get through safely. The first 15 get through turn 1 safely. There's a little bit of bunching up at turn 2, but it's all looking very, very clean. So we've already got a drive-through that's under investigation, and we'll bring you more on that in just a second. A little bit of bumping and grinding further on down through the field, but for the most part, Andy, that looks like a mighty, mighty clean start as Unisalve Linen for Gripbacks Engineering gets sent very, very wide. But for the most part, it's looking very, very clean.
Yeah, I think drivers trying to be as patient as they can here in the early stages. This is... Oh, there's a spin in the background just as I said that. And that is... that was... I didn't quite see which of those Mercedes it was that had gone around, but also the 888. Aston Martin, look, of Killian Ryan Meenan has been involved, and there's a Ferrari, I think that was in the background, so just as I said they were being patient, that all sorts of goes out of the window. Oh, it was Eamon Murphy in the Yas Heat McLaren, the 39 car in the background, that I saw recovering from that spin. So, well, there you go, they were patient for the first sector, and then it all sort of broke loose going into the tight hairpin down at turn 8, which is one of the better overtaking opportunities on the track, and one or two of them perhaps just going for an early move that wasn't really worth the risk.
No, it really wasn't, and it was there was Harry Spears caught up in that as well. He was the Mercedes that we saw going spinning rounds there in the 285. He was down in 7th place to start off with. Now he's away down into 26th position, so a bit of an oopsie moment there. The thing about that is that he's still in that main train, so it's better than a drive-through, it's better than a penalty. He can just sort of pick his way through, and at this stage in the race he's maybe lost about maybe 6-7 seconds out of that. It could have been much, much worse, but being quite honest with you, the fact that he's under so much pressure already, as you see Leonardo Porco firing it up the inside in the Porsche, making it look so easy. You've got Ferrari facing the wrong way there. Was that Bischoff in the 991? He's been absolutely nuked. So that was Christiansen.
Yeah, sorry, I think it was a McLaren, actually. I think it was... Yeah, McLaren, there we go. Yes, it was. I was trying to figure that out myself. It was the McLaren that went around, but then there was a Ferrari involved as well. So, yeah, that's all getting a bit messy, isn't it, through that tight section. There is the Eamon Murphy Ferrari, which is back up to 31st now, but you can see the damage on the front of the Yas Heat car after its contact on lap 1 as well.
Well, just looking at the gap to Giuseppe Montalbano right now, that is the best part of a second that he has got over the cars behind him, the likes of Leon Otoki in the 14. Now, what happened there with the because obviously we've got Unicorn to Love up there in that second position there, but Montalbano actually allowed to stretch away a little bit here and open up over 1.5 seconds of a gap here. It's very early to be doing that, but that Bentley looking very, very comfortable right now.
Yeah, the Bentley always has been quite good on cold tyres, though. There's something about the front engine cars, they just seem to get themselves up to speed a bit quicker. I do expect Otoki and Macaulay here in the Porsche and Audi, respectively, to go after him before much longer, although at the moment it looks as though the 1-2-3 car with which we ride on board here of Joe Macaulay is arguably the quicker of the two. It was Mike Noble, remember, that qualified the car, and he was very quick. Macaulay is also looking quick, and he challenges the Porsche for second place as they drop down into that tricky left-hander at turn 8. Right now, the Audi looks the quicker of these two cars, but that is just difficult to find a way through round here without taking a big lunge that can so easily end in contact.
Absolutely is, and again you're seeing some interesting manoeuvres going on further down the field as the cars try and shuffle their way through, and this is Joe Macaulay all over the back of the Porsche then of Leon Otoki. They're side by side coming through one of the fastest parts of the circuit here. Amazing move round the outside by Joe Macaulay. What bravery, but the Porsche is just going to stick up the inside. There's a bit of door banging side to side contact there, and that has never worked. There's no way that Audi is going to have the inside line for the next corner. That is bravery at its finest, but to be fair to Leon Otoki, he is not given anything right now. You've got the McLaren behind him, George Bidwee trying to find up the inside. They're almost 3 wide coming out of the final corner there, and that is an amazing move for Joe Macaulay to do the 3 of them. There's 2 going on to the grass to the outside, and quite honestly, all hell is kicking off, Andy.
That was incredible racing there, and how on earth Macaulay made that stick round the outside of 4 corners, including the 3 fastest ones on the track, to get second place away. And then great opportunistic driving from Boothby, and that's Tauscher out wide. That's Matthias Tauscher in the 992, out braking himself, I think, going into turn number 4, but how none of that ended in contact, I do not know. Brilliant respect shown by both Macaulay and Atoki, actually, because Atoki at any point there could have eased Macaulay out wide, just the way that Macaulay did to him coming out of the final corner, I suppose. So maybe he'll regret being quite so lenient with the Audi.
Oh my goodness me, stunning stuff here. Just having a look as well, because of all that fighting, because of all that battering everyone out in second place, that now means that Giuseppe Montalbano has got 4.5 seconds of an advantage over the rest of the field right now. So he's lit the fuse and he's gone. Fastest lap of the race then for the 340 team of Omega E-Racing. Giuseppe Montalbano taking his first stint there, 1:33.687, and he is absolutely away with it. But there's Leon Atoki. Oh, there's contact in. He's been absolutely wiped out there. He was in 4th place all the way down to 16th position. That's going to put him behind Felix Ruper, who will move up there. And that is absolute heartbreak there for Leon Atoki, because that is going to put him around about 8 to 10 seconds behind that field there. He'll have to make his way back up, and it's going to, there's only one thing that's going to be, and that's going to be contact as the Mercedes goes up the inside. That is the number 23 Volante Racing Aztec Simsport of Vanko Dimitrov, who tried to just pop up the inside there, and then that leaves him vulnerable as well to Sasha Glatter in that 81 Aston Martin. So I mean, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. If you go for a move and it doesn't work, then you're going to be vulnerable to the car behind. But if you make it work, then you're released and you can just start slowly clawing your way back up. This is the second of the 2 Bentleys in the top 10 there, trying to make it 3 Bentleys in the top 10 there. Chris Melbourne trying to go right the outside of a car there, almost hitting into a car that was going very, very slow there. I think there might have been problems for that one. I think that might have been the 23. We've got a penalty already. It's the incident between cars 285 and the 39 on lap 1. It's a drive-through to the Yaz Heat team of Jaroslav Hontik and Eamon Murphy. That was for the contact with Sidemax Motorworks, Harry Spears and Marcel Fusi. We saw Spears going flying down the order there, as we see the Mercedes again trying to take that position there, but it's just not happening. Back to the battle with Bentleys then. Chris Melbourne is being held to within an inch of his life there. Team Racing Points, the Team Racing Point Flavio Mancini behind him. That is a heck of a drive from Mancini. We've got another drive-through penalty there, the 36 of GT Omega RPM Esports. Jack Noller gets a drive through, and it's been an absolutely miserable couple of seasons for Sheldon Muscat, and it goes from bad to worse on the opening race of this brand new season. That is for the incident on lap 2 with car 36 and 96, and the 96 of course is the Sidemax Motorworks of Lucas Kreuzer. So yeah, you get hit, you get your wrist slapped from race control. Difficult to believe we've only done 10 minutes as the 39 Yaz Heat comes into pit lane to do its drive-through penalty. But 5.5 seconds is the gap between Giuseppe Montalbano and Joe Macaulay in that second place. Joe Macaulay just has absolutely nothing right now. No driver on this grid has anything to the Bentley of that 340 car of Giuseppe Montalbano. And we'll get some replays fired up very, very shortly. But Andy, I mean, what a fantastic opening stint to this race. We guaranteed it was going to be a cracker, but it almost feels like we've had a full race already.
There's been plenty going on, hasn't there? And George Montalbano has been really loving seeing all of this in his mirrors, because Giuseppe has just been pulling away at the front of the field. As you said, 6 seconds nearly to the good now over the Macaulay, Boothby and Whitehead battle for second. And the more that those drivers behind keep falling over each other, the bigger the gap the race leader will be able to pull out. So exactly what Giuseppe wanted to see. Meanwhile, speaking of Bentleys, another 2 here battling just outside the top 10. This is Chris Melbourne in the Volante Racing Aztec Simsport car, number 70, just about fending off for the time being Flavio Mancini in the Turn Racing Point example right behind these 2 cars. understandably pretty evenly matched at the moment. And then that's the Aston Martin just behind them of Felix Rupert, who is in 13th place now then in the number 71 car, which means that he has gained quite a number of places actually from where he started. So good to see Felix starting to work his way back up the order. Yeah, you're right though, brilliant racing, some really good respectful racing we've seen between a lot of the drivers. The battle between Joe McCauley and Leonard Tocchi was brilliant there in the early stages, and now McCauley, well, he's not really feeling the heat as such from George Boothby, but Boothby is applying the pressure here from a few car lengths back, and I don't think this battle for second is over just yet.
Penalty there for the number 81 car, that is Blackhawk Racing's Sasha Glatter, who gets a drive-through penalty, and I'm going to presume that's been handed out by Race Control. It has. It's for the incident between cars 1, 1, 2 and them. That's TF Racing's Manos Gerardis and Giannis Saknis. Avoidable contact. So again, silly accidents coming in on those opening couple of laps, and that is exactly what is costing all of these teams. Here we go with the first of very many replays here. Here's Eamon Murphy on the inside of the corner there. Oh, that's a very silly bit of contact there. I mean, that Eamon is a very fast driver, and that's well below the standards that we expect from Eamon in that Ferrari. It's not like it's a new car to him, but again, opening couple of laps, the adrenaline is absolutely blasting through all of these drivers. You don't like to see it, but I mean, it's just one of those things, isn't it?
Well, it goes back to the point that I made during qualifying as well. Because everyone is so evenly matched, it's not going to be easy to overtake people once the race settles down. So the best chance by far to make progress is on the opening lap, and when you see a chance to go up the inside, the temptation is oh so hard to resist to go for the move. But yeah, he might well live to regret that one, I think. Last kisser then here for the Unicorns of Love in the number 15 car on the attack. So too is Igor Ogorodnikov, who has dropped down the order slightly, hasn't he? Started 4th on the grid, did this Aston Martin. It is all the way down now in 14th place. For every winner that you get, people moving forward from where they started, there are always losers as well. And Ogorodnikov is a quick driver. We know that he should be able to make progress, but he's in quite a deep hole already to try and dig himself out of.
Yeah, this is Jack Noller that we're currently watching just now in the Bentley. Just fires it round the outside, and oh my goodness me, that's the number 96 there of Sidemax Motorworks that almost clashes into him, but manages to avoid all of that. That was a fairly clean run through all of that craziness. Macaulay has got Boothby and Whitehead all over the well, not quite again. That was a little bit deceptive there. I think if Boothby loses this position to Whitehead is going, because he will catch up to the back of Joe McCauley and try and push this position. They need to. I mean, that is 8 laps in, and they are 7 seconds behind Giuseppe Montalbano. I mean, what could possibly explain the difference, the raw speed that Montalbano has got in this race, Andy?
Well, in fairness, he's only taken another second out of them in the last few laps, so I think a lot of it was just confidence on slightly low tyre pressures in the early stages, and then taking advantage of the battling that was going on. There's a bit of a punt from the number 81 car, and that was the Blackhawk Racing Aston Martin, which that was the reason that the McLaren went around up at, turn number 14. But yeah, I think the Bentley was just really strong in the early laps. That's when the next group of cars were all tripping over each other as well, and now he's built up that gap, he can sort of manage it, can't he? But either way, Giuseppe Montalbano is driving a really good race now. So is Luke Whitehead, though, because Luke Whitehead, let me remind you, started 13th in that McLaren that is now 4th place. So what did I say about it being hard to overtake people? Not if your name is Luke Whitehead, because you can see he's right on the tail now again of Boothby and Macaulay. George Boothby is getting held up a little bit now by Joe Macaulay, and you sense that this is one of those pressure cooker battles, isn't it? I think Boothby was happy to sit there for a while, but now he's got the rapid Luke Whitehead applying the pressure to him. He's getting more and more eager to find a way past the Audi.
Cars under investigation at the moment. The number 69 of Space Pace and Beetle Sim Racing DE, the 16 of Unicorns of Love 6th edition, the 41 of SimWare Pro, that's Igor Ogorodnikov, and the 123 of FFS Sprint Mammals. In fact, the 41 is under investigation for 2 separate incidents, and that may explain why Igor Ogorodnikov is away down in 13th position. We know he's got a very, very short temper, and that might make things just a little bit worse. And apparently it's 2 incidents with the same car that are under investigation. Here's the 41 then, late on the brakes there. Oh well. Don't be surprised, Andy, if that car is making a trip through pit lane very, very soon, because that is one of the quickest open and shut books I think I've ever read in my life.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a huge shock to hear that there was a penalty incoming after that. That was very clumsy, to say the least. Easily done when everyone's so close together in the early stages, but still, it is on the driver behind, really, to make sure that they get stopped in time and react to the car ahead slowing down. Second place battle back through the first sequence of corners. Having said that Montalbano wasn't taking a huge amount of time out of them, he then took a full second out of them on the previous lap, so the Bentley now is 8 seconds clear of this group. It would be interesting, though, to see if that gap started to come down, maybe, if it was either Boothby or Whitehead in the McLarens in second place, because I do think they're both, certainly Whitehead is quicker than Macaulay, I'd say, and at certain parts of the track, so is George Boothby. He's a bit closer this time heading down into turn number 8. Is he going to make the move? No, he's not really close enough. Instead takes the wide line in, carries more speed off the corner, and starts to build the challenge then, heading out towards the back part of the circuit.
Andy, maybe you can explain this one. Darren King's team name there, the number 38. I've got it down here as Dal King Community, but I don't understand what that means, mate.
They've
had a quick rebrand, have they?
There's this thing called football, which everyone's talking about at the moment. I don't really understand it myself, but I have heard that particular phrase associated with it, so I don't know, maybe it's something to do with that, perhaps.
Yeah, I heard that. Like, England's got a part. Yeah, he's maybe bringing the car home, or maybe he's referring to last night where didn't England get like a par 3 or something like that? I think that's what he means. But either way, Dan King in the number 38 machine doing a decent job. I mean, he is doing a recovery drive. I think he was around about P34, P33 with that machine. So he's gained a couple of positions there, getting himself back through, but getting his way through, and he's going to be handing over that machine to his teammate Jan Willem van Ommen. Jan is an incredibly fast driver as well, so we'll see how that one develops. But back to your point you were making about Joe Macaulay, 100% he's the cork in the bottle. Before Boothby and Whitehead were right on his tail, they were doing 134 ones, which was enough to get them back onto the tail of Giuseppe Montalbano, who was doing 133 nines. But it's fine catching up to Joe Macaulay, but they're obviously not able to get past him. Instead, between cars 17 and 69 on lap 2, that is the Pulse Sim Sport machine, along with Space Pace and Beetle Sim Racing DE. That is a racing instance, no further action needed on that one. The 3 jumps into the list as well as under investigation, and you can see there the 41 under investigation twice. So 1 hour 10 left to go in the race, Andy. It's kind of mellowing out in this midfield, but I mean, we cannot say this enough. Giuseppe Montalbano, the pace that he is firing in every single lap is just absurd. Let me just run you through the laps that he's done since he started. Lap 2, 133.8, then it was a 133.6, then it was a 133.6, 133.9, 133.7, 133.9, 133.8, 133.9, 133.9, 133.9, 134.1. If that isn't consistent, Andy, I do not know what is.
It's certainly more consistent than I could manage out there, that's for sure. That is really impressive, and we will now possibly start to see those times go up a little bit, just as this high track temperature starts to take its toll on the tyres. Although, worth mentioning, the track temperature is dipping. It's nearly 5:30 in the afternoon now in Sim, which means that the track temperature is down already by 4 degrees compared to what it was in qualifying, and about 7 or 8 degrees cooler than it was for practice earlier on this evening. So as we get later into the evening, that is going to have an effect on the track temperature. That will change the handling of the cars, but more importantly, it might just allow them to eke a bit more life out of those tyres. Darren King then heads out of the left-hander at turn number 6, and he has arrived now on the tail of Offerman's BMW, but he's got the Ferrari of Christensen right behind as well. And this is the hardest situation to be in when you're attacking and defending at the same time. You never really know which one of those two tasks should take up all of your attention. He goes to the outside, to the inside. That's a beautiful move by Darren King. And that was 28th place. A bit of a hip and shoulder on the exit of the corner. And that delays Offerman slightly as well. But that was a peach of a switchback.
I think we need to call that one Raheem Sterling, don't we? That was a beautiful dummy from one side to the other. Got the move done, and that was fantastic. George Boothby, though, under real pressure from Luke Whitehead, dropped off the back of Joe McCauley, and he's under all sorts of pressure now. Look at that, Luke Whitehead on the back there, and this is bringing Jesse Salvalainen and Michael Tauscher up into the battle as well. They're side by side out of the corner. George Boothby, he is on his last lives right now because the McLaren's side by side out of this. But look at that, the Ferrari of Salvalainen for Grippax Engineering forced off to the grass. Oh, that's a little bit naughty there from the 27 of Luke Whitehead there. Up the inside goes the Ferrari. That is surely going to be a position. The Ferrari gets the run out here, and we're almost 3 wide coming out of the corner here. This is just nuts, Andy.
There is no way they can carry this on for much longer without significant contact. They're 3 wide again, almost wide for Boothby. Whitehead's up the inside, and this time it's Savalainen that's slow off the corner. And now the Porsche of Lars Kisser tries to get up the inside as well. Somehow Boothby has held on to 3rd. Whitehead still 4th. In fact, I think they're all still in the same order they were in half a lap ago, which seems impossible, really. But the battle is not over yet. Whitehead needs to get past Boothby. They've dropped nearly 3 seconds already to Joe McCauley. He goes to the outside. Up the inside goes Savalainen, and they almost rub again as they go through one of the slowest corners on the track at turn 14. And then the track goes left. That favours the McLaren over the Ferrari. And again, somehow positions stay as they were. But look at the time that cost them to Joe McCauley. They're the best part now of 3 seconds behind the second placed Audi. In fact, it is now 3¼ seconds between them, just through that half a lap of side-by-side racing. But that was astonishing. How they kept that clean just is beyond me.
Do you remember, Andy, all that time ago when it was a 3-car battle for second place? You know, all of like 5 minutes ago, and now it's a 6-car battle for 3rd. This is just ridiculous action that we've got going on here. And do you know what, as well, is the fact that I'm trying to describe this, but especially at Salvalainen. Now, there was a bit coming up towards that last corner there, and he had the presence of mind to think, I'm not going to make this work. I'm not going to force the issue here. I'm going to back out and just try again later on. That's what I love about this level of racing. The drivers just taking that and sort of running with it. Instant between cars 285 and 16 on lap 2. It's a 15-second penalty for car 16 for avoidable contact. That's a Unicorns of Love sexy edition of Lasse Schwert that's behind the wheel on that one. So 15-second penalty for the number 16 car. An hour and 5 minutes left to go, and now they start to stretch out a little bit more, and you can see that George Boothby is starting to pull away again. Do you think, Andy, they'll be able to catch up with Joe McCauley?
Well, that will be interesting, because we felt that Whitehead was the quickest of that group, didn't we? McCauley, Boothby and Whitehead, we felt that Luke was the quicker, and Boothby on occasion was closing in on Joe McCauley, but he didn't seem to have a huge pace advantage over him. So now Joe has 3 and a bit seconds worth of clear track behind him. He might be able to settle into more of a rhythm and actually go a bit quicker himself. So we'll monitor that gap with interest. It came down by about a 10th on the previous lap. Boothby a little bit quicker than Joe McCauley. but really not a huge difference between them. So down into the hairpin they go. Look at what a brilliant sight these 6 cars make, though. The 2 McLarens, the Ferrari, a couple of Porsches, and then Smolyar in the Aston Martin at the back of the group, as Igor Ogorodnikov has a 15-second penalty, and I believe has just had another incident down at turn number 8.
Oh dear, this is right. We're going to have to keep an eye on this, because I'm going to get the crystal ball out, and I think that Igor Ogorodnikov is going to have a really rough 20 minutes, because it looks like he might be getting another penalty. We go for a replay here. This is side by side with the 285 and the Bentley there. Oh, and they've got a car spinning all by itself. And, oh my goodness me, that is that is a bit of a melee, I think, is the easiest way to describe that right now. Incident between cars 14 and 41 on lap 3 is a 15-second time penalty for Igor Ogorodnikov, and given that he was all the way down in 13th place, he's actually doing not too bad to recover himself down there into 11th position. Yeah, Ionut Cosman on YouTube chat saying that is a group term for something with that's not going to be repeated on here. But you find that, Andy, don't you, that if there's one incident that's happening ahead of you, usually there can be several other incidents just by cars panicking and trying to take avoiding action.
Yeah, exactly, and because that is the kind of initial response when you see a car spinning and you don't know where it's going. You slow down and you hit the brakes to avoid running into an accident, and it's all well and good you reacting in that way, but if there's a car tucked up under your rear wing, they're not going to see that happening, and they are very likely to run straight into the back of you themselves. I've had that happen a few times to me, and it's frustrating, but it is sort of understandable how that happens. Now, you asked a question a few minutes ago about whether or not Boothby and Whitehead might be able to catch back up to Joe McCauley. At the time I said no. I'm now changing my answer to absolutely, because they are already 8/10 closer than they were when you asked that question. So Boothby and Whitehead are starting now to stretch their legs again. You can see that Jonas Savalainen there in the number 11 Ferrari is starting to come under increased pressure now from Matthias Tauscher in the 992 Porsche. That is releasing the McLarens ahead of them, and they are starting to bridge the gap to McCauley. So yes, things are stretching out now, but give it another 5 or 6 laps and it could start to get very tight for second place again.
Yeah, Joe McCauley getting caught hand over fist by George Boothby here. You can see Michael Tauscher for Random Passable Racing all over the back of Jesse Salvalainen in that number 11 Grip Hacks Engineering, Eunice Salvalainen. Don't know why I've been calling him Jesse for the past 10 minutes. But doing a decent job of trying to catch up there, because he's got Lars Kisser on his tail as well. And you've then got the 889 Aston Martin from Racefield team of Alexander Smolyar trying to join in with the party. But they've really fallen off the back of the likes of George Boothby and Luke Whitehead as well. The gap now 1.8 seconds to Joe McCauley. So Joe McCauley's pace has just fallen off an absolute cliff right now. 12.1 seconds between him and Giuseppe Montalbano. And you've got to say, at this early stage in the race, Andy, I mean, Montalbano's pace has really put him in a very good position with less than half an hour gone in the race.
Yes, it is, but we still have over an hour to go and a mandatory pit stop and driver change, and whenever we have races with 2 drivers or more sharing a car, there is sometimes one driver that's a bit quicker than the other. That can maybe be the case here. We'll have to wait and see how quick Callie Atkins is when they jump in a bit later on, but for the time being, yeah, Montalbano certainly building up a nice advantage over the rest of the pack. This is now becoming the battle, really, isn't it? For 5th position, Savalainen, Tauscher, Kisser and Smolyar, 4 cars together. The Ferrari leading the 2 Porsches and the Aston Martin. Savalainen, a few laps ago, was doing his best to try and move into 4th place ahead of Luke Whitehead, and now he finds himself busily defending his 5th position from the German machines behind him. Chris Hartfeld, by the way, is into 9th place now, and rounding out the top 10, the Carbon SimSport McLaren of Damien Pavlis. So we are seeing a few different teams appearing inside the top 10 now, from the ones that we had in the top 10 after qualifying. But you're right, David, that gap between 2nd and 3rd is coming down almost sector by sector, isn't it?
It certainly is, and it's going to be a matter of time. And also Luke Whitehead dropping off the back of George Boothby quite significantly as well. So, yeah, this is very, very interesting to see as well. So yeah, let's keep this going. Let's see how this develops. There's another one for your Sprint Cup bingo if you're playing along on YouTube. What we'll do is we'll get a little graphic drawn up, and we'll publish them before every round, and you guys can play along with the commentary as well. But an hour left to go in the race, Andy. This is everything that I expected it to be, and so much more. Giuseppe Montalbano ahead of Joe McCauley in that 1-2-3 by what's that, about 14 seconds. But we're currently watching Michael Teicher for Random Passable Racing, and we're about to head into the pit stop window.
Yeah, this is when things could start to develop even further. Igor Ogrodnikov has another penalty now. He did say that this might be the case. That's another 15-second penalty for contact with the Unicorns of Love of Tobias Grunewald, which we saw earlier on. So that's a 30-second total penalty to be served. And look, he's not backing down. He's still getting involved in the fight. This is the Lamborghini then, number 96, that he's trying to go around the outside of through the final corner. That's the Sidemax Motorworks car of Tico van der Velde, and he's got the inside now for turn number 1, and Ogrodnikov will go through, but it's going to matter little really, because he has this 30-second penalty to serve, and he doesn't have that many laps left in which to serve it. 30 seconds is going to send him right to the back of the pack again, and then he still has the mandatory pit stop to serve, which everyone will have to serve, as David said, within the pit stop window. So who's going to pit early? Who will come in perhaps a little bit later? If you feel you've got your quicker driver in now and they're in a good bit of track position, then you want to leave them out as long as possible, really, don't you?
You do, and I've got to be honest. I mean, it's so disappointing to see this from Igor for a number of reasons, and I say this. We speak about this almost every stream lately. For the past 2 months, I mean, the change that he has made in his performance has been absolutely sensational. So when I jumped on board with the SimGrid and I got introduced to Igor Ogrodnikov, I mean, he had the pace, he had, some impressive results, but he didn't have that consistency. He was always finding himself in other people's fights. He was always finding himself sometimes unfairly, getting involved with other people's battles, and he was the one that was getting punished for getting in trouble with that. And recently, the past 2 months, he's been finding himself, keeping himself out of trouble, keeping his nose clean, and the pace that he's got, I say this every time, he is one of the fastest drivers here on the SimGrid. If he can keep himself out of trouble, then he'd be golden, but he's not. And what you find, unfortunately, is that he has got such a short temper that if he finds himself in, getting himself into trouble, then he starts getting into issues, he starts getting aggressive, he starts using his cab as a weapon with other drivers and starts taking positions quite aggressively. So that's what I fear we're going to see tonight, and we're going to see him maybe get up into the top 15. But again, don't be surprised from my understanding to see Igor getting himself into more trouble with other cars here. Sasha Glatter with the Black Hawk Racing, it could have been such a different night for them, getting that drive through early on, still trying to catch up to the back of Sackness in that 112 TF Racing outfit as well. But it just shows you how quickly, Andy, things can go from doing relatively well to having a pretty horrific night.
Yeah, it only takes one false move, and then when you've had that one incident and you lose ground, then the desperation starts to sink in then, doesn't it, to try and regain the lost ground. Right, here is the battle for second place. George Boothby has reeled in Joe McCauley. This gap, remember, was over 3 seconds only about 10 minutes ago, if that. So George Boothby has put in some really strong pace, and actually not only has he caught McCauley, but he's gapped Luke Whitehead as well. So Boothby needs to try and strike while the iron's hot here. He's arriving with momentum, clearly quicker than the Audi. He's got a gap over Luke Whitehead, but with every corner that he spends stuck behind Joe McCauley, he's going to start seeing that black McLaren, number 27 of Luke Whitehead, get closer and closer in his mirrors. So George Boothby needs to get on with this. He needs a good exit from the next 2 corners through the right-hander at turn 9 into turn 10. Don't go for the move here, just get the exit from the tight right-hander and then get that run down the back straight. He didn't get a great exit there though, and so the FFS Sprint Mammals Audi of Joe McCauley hangs on for the time being. But the slipstream, though, is starting to take effect. The McLaren closes in flat out through turn 11, flat out through turn 12. Then you start to hit the brakes just before you turn into 13. Look at the way there that Boothby closes in, but he's just not quite within striking range for the real overtaking opportunity of that section at the right-hander at 14. So David, Boothby has caught Joe McCauley, but now he's sat behind Joe for a lap or so. He's losing that impetus, that momentum that he was carrying when he caught him, and he can see Luke Whitehead already starting to take time back out of them. Luke was 1.6, 1.7 seconds back at the start of the lap, and as they come through now to complete the 22nd lap of the race, that gap is only 1.2 seconds. So with every corner that Boothby spends behind McCauley, this man gets closer and closer to them again.
Yeah, and that is absolute disaster for Boothby. He needed to get that car put up the inside of Joe McCauley. Catching up to him is fine. Staying behind him, absolutely next to useless in this current situation, because, as you said, Boothby is going to have Whitehead on his tail, and then that's also going to bring Salvalainen back up to the tail of that car as well. So it really is going to go from bad to worse very, very quickly. We can see on the tail here of Joe McCauley, not only is Boothby struggling, I think, in the slipstream of that Audi, he's actually dropping back a little bit as well now. Now I wonder, maybe he's trying to cool his tyres down a bit and think again about that, or maybe he's going to try and do the undercut. But as it stands right now, Boothby is really, really in the losing seat right now. He needs to do something very, very different and do it very, very quickly.
That's an interesting point you make there about the undercut, because I do think we'll see some teams try and utilise that. If you can't get past your opponents on the track, then pit earlier than them, get out there in some clean air, maybe on some fresh tyres, and try and overtake them without ever having to do it on the track, because we've said it's difficult to overtake around here. We've seen a lot of attempted overtakes go wrong and end up in contact and spins and penalties. So rather than take that risk in the very first round of the championship especially, why not try and play the tactical game? Of course, the earlier you pit, though, the longer you then have to go in that second stint, so there's always a pro and a con to these situations. Marcel Villert here in the Turn 1 Pro Aston Martin, meanwhile, he's down in 18th place. He'll be the first person to benefit when Ogorodnikov eventually comes in and serves this 30-second penalty, but he has actually, Villert, recently got himself ahead of the 96 car of Van der Velde, and so one place gained in the recent past for the Aston Martin.
Yeah, you get Ogorodnikov down in 17th position as we see Killian Ryan Meenan here in the 888 machine for Sendipu's FFS Racing. It's starting to get quite creative with these team names lately, but the Aston Martin doing a cracking job of trying to get its way back up through the order here. And look at this is now again shortly becoming a 6-car battle here for second place, and I'm stuttering and losing concentration here because I've just seen again under investigation the 41. Are you kidding me? The third time tonight under investigation. This could be a horrific night for the SimGrid Pro drivers of Igor Ogorodnikov and Yaroslav Shevritilov. We keep an eye though on Joe McCauley for FFS Sprint Mammals on the rear wing of that car, looking back towards George Boothby. This is with Leonardo Porco though. On the outside of him is the 991 of Garage 911 powered by Equipper. Marco Bischoff trying to make hay while the sun shines, but it looks like Leonardo Porco has got the measure of him there. Marcel Villert for Turn 1 Pro though has Tinko van der Velde, and I did say early on, have a look for that Sidemax Motorworks machine of Tinko van der Velde and Lucas Kreuzer. Very fast drivers there. They are well capable of getting themselves into the top 10, but again, it's all about getting that momentum and keeping that pace going. As it stands though, Giuseppe Montalbano still in the lead for Amiga E-Racing team, out in front by an eye-watering 16.3 seconds. He's going to be handing over the car very shortly to Callie Atkins as probably in the next 10 minutes or so. Joe McCauley in second place there for the 1-2-3 FFS Sprint Mammals team. He'll be handing over the car to Mike Noble, and then in third place is the UK OG 47 team, George Boothby alongside Niels van de Kekkel. This is starting to heat up very, very nicely indeed, because Marcel Villert has got Tinko van der Velde, who fires it up the inside. That was as cool and as calm as you like. And there goes Leonardo Porco up the inside as well. And that is an absolute mugging for poor Marcel Villert there. The Turn 1 Pro driver is going to be hung out to dry. And don't be surprised to see the Ferrari of Marco Bischoff trying to make a move there. Although, to be fair to Villert, he's managed to get at least one position back.
Yeah, and this is significant because in 50 minutes' time we'll be awarding points to the top 20 finishers. So Porco at the moment in the 728 Porsche would be the last of the cars to score a point. So it is important for these teams and drivers to try and stay inside that top 20. Oh, and Porco runs a bit wide there, actually might lose a position coming onto the pit straight. We cut away though to the battle for second place because George Boothby, look, has been reeled in now by Luke Whitehead. So we said that was likely to happen. Bischoff on the outside there of the 728, and he got ahead of Porco then. So Bischoff into the points now with 20th place. You were right, the Ferrari did manage to find a way through, although Porco fights back again going into turn 4, and the Porsche has the inside line for the next two corners. The corner after that, though, is quite a sharp left-hander, and that will favour the Ferrari, which does go back ahead. And all of this battling, bringing the 666 Porsche now of Jason Absmeyer into play as well. The Porsche back up the inside again. Marco Bischoff is about to lose out surely this time to Porco, who's got the inside for turn number 8. But we're seeing so much great side-by-side racing. They both went a bit wide there, though, and the Porsche does go through. But we're seeing a lot of side-by-side racing for multiple corners, which is really impressing me, as, David, the pit window is open and quite a few teams choosing to take this early advantage to make their stop.
Yep, looking up at the front, we've got at least 2 of our front 5 into the pits just now. Macaulay's into pit lane, Tauscher's into pit lane, Lars Kisser into pit lane. That moves George Boothby up into the well, he was in that second position. As we see Marco Bischoff try to take the position away again in that Ferrari. Great move round the inside of Leonardo Porco. Porco making a small mistake around that left-hander, and the Ferrari just shown onto the grass. Oh, and he's lost control. The bump just on the entry to the final corner, and that Ferrari is absolutely shown no mercy there. Into the wall, lost it of his own accord, trying to rejoin the track there. And I wonder if race control are going to be looking at the fact that he was crowded out onto the grass there. But that is big damage there for that Ferrari.
That is going to be an interesting one, because in some series the rule is that if you're on the outside you have to expect the car on the inside to show you the edge of the road. Sometimes the driver on the inside has the right to take their racing line, which is exactly what happened there, but in other series you are told you have to leave a car's width. So we'll have to wait and see what the stewards think of that one, but there's no doubt about it, it was a bit of contact that forced him wide, and then those curbs and the bump over the grass was just enough to unsettle the Ferrari on worn tyres. Didn't have much grip, and as soon as it got sideways it snapped back the other way and went around. So interesting strategy call here then, with the Audi of Joe McCauley coming in early to hand over to Mike Noble. Now Luke Whitehead is in and Boothby, but they come in a lap later than the Audi, and that was actually really, really smart of the Audi squad, because it takes away then the opportunity. There is the FFS Sprint Mammals car. It takes away the opportunity of the undercut for the McLarens, doesn't it? So rather than waiting for them to pit and then reacting, they took the initiative. They pitted Joe early. They get Mike in, who we know is fast because he stuck this car third on the grid. After all, I think that was a really, really clever play from the FFS Sprint Mammals team.
It certainly was, and it'll be interesting to see how that affects the rest of the race here, because we're already coming up to the halfway point with 46 and a half minutes left to go here of round 1 of Sprint Cup Season 4. At number 15, when it came into the pits, that is the Porsche of Lars Kisser, who handed things over to Nick Hubin. Lost 10 seconds in the pit lane. Boothby has just left the pits there, and just behind him is that car that was in third place as well. So they come out as they went into the pits here, and it looks like the FFS Sprint Mammals is potentially going to do them. He's been done on the pit lane there, so that means that Niels van de Kekel has got the jump and has got the Audi done in pit lane. And I've got to be honest, I think the McLaren behind there is going to make short work of that.
That is impressive, isn't it then? So a quicker pit stop, we think it was, for the 47 car. George Boothby handing over, as you said, to Niels van der Kekel, and that was what did it. About 1.3 seconds quicker, we think, getting into the pits. And actually, that's something interesting, David, that I didn't realise about this particular sim, Assetto Corsa Competizione. Coming into the pit lane, you really have to position the car very precisely into the pit box. If you're even fractionally out, then the sim will move you into position, but it takes a couple of seconds to do it, and it's very easy to lose quite a chunk of time just through not lining up in exactly the right place. Then, of course, it's also how quickly or how late you brake to get it down to the speed limit, how quickly you accelerate again on exit. So there are lots of ways during a pit stop that a driver can actually gain or lose time.
Absolutely. Just saying that Giuseppe Montalbano into the pits, passes over control of the car to Callie Atkins, but also seeing the number 728 Virtual Racing Team, Leonardo Porco, getting a drive-through penalty. Now, that is not for that earlier incident, that is for track limits, so that is not anything to do with the excursion that we saw the Ferrari driver going onto the grass there. So our first of quite possibly many track limit excursions tonight.
Yeah, that's something that, of course, is controlled by the sim as well, not by race control, so there's no arguing that one. If you exceed track limits too many times, you know about it immediately, and the punishment is pretty immediate as well. So, the Bentley then down to 7th at the moment for Omega G Performance, but we know that they should re-inherit the lead fairly comfortably. I will be watching Callie Atkins' lap times, though, with interest, because they pitted pretty much bang on halfway through the pit window, which tells me that they don't expect there to be a huge amount of pace difference between the two drivers. But if there is, could it give drivers like Niels van der Kekel here in the 47 car a chance to get back up there? Look at the way that Mike Noble has caught him already, though. He's gapped the 27 McLaren in the background, and at this stage of the race, the Audi looks the quicker of these three cars, doesn't it? Can he make the move, though, and reclaim that track position that they lost in the pits?
Well, Mike Noble looking, as you said, very, very fast in that machine. The McLaren just not able to break away in the way that we thought it was going to happen. I mean, Niels van de Kekel, incredibly fast driver, but Mike Noble really has the answer in that Audi. I mean, look at Hamad Arkizi. They were fighting for third and fourth position, but at the moment, Arkizi just falling away at the back here. I've got to be honest, I think it's going to be a matter of time. I think the McLaren of Niels van de Kekel, his days are numbered with that Audi of Mike Noble behind him. He's really pushing hard, really hustling that car, and I think he's just going to fire it up the inside at one of these corners soon. And if anything now, I think maybe the Audi is the one that's got the pace potentially to catch up to the Bentley, because look at how hard it's hustling that McLaren right now.
Did look a bit like that, though, at the start of the race, and then we saw that the Audi started to slip back again, didn't it? Joe McCauley's pace through the second half of this stint wasn't as good as it had been at the start, so perhaps the Audi works its tyres harder, which would explain why it's really quick initially, but maybe faded towards the end. Well, let's see. Mike Noble needs to try and make the move first and get into this clean air. He's close enough to think about it going through turns 9 and 10. Instead, takes the wide line in. Now look at the extra speed he carries through the middle of the corner. Clever driving there, though, from van der Kekel. He just held the car up just for a fraction of a second on the apex, just to prevent Mike Noble from getting that switch back. And then once he realised he'd covered off the Audi, he got on the loud pedal again, but Noble closes in once more through the high-speed right-handers at the top of the circuit. Is there a chance to get up the inside into the braking zone at turn 14? There is not. The McLaren has always been a good car on the brakes, but look again, they're starting to concertina back together. You've got the 27 McLaren there of Hamada Akizi behind, and actually the 992, the Porsche, the random pasta ball car of Maciej Malinowski too. So this could soon become a four-way battle once more.
Yeah, just watching the replay here, this is Boothby early on. This is when the five of them were fighting amongst each other, where we had almost four wide along out of this final corner here. A little bit of a hip check there between the Ferrari and the McLaren there. but I mean, the patience, and this is the point I was actually making when you see the Ferrari on that third position there. He actually ended up backing out of that, knowing that he wasn't going to get that position. And the Ferrari was, of course, Jesse Kalpinen, but it was Unisalv Leinen that was behind the wheel at that point. This is really, really hampering Mike Noble no end whatsoever, because the fastest man on the track is Hermada Urquizy by a good 4-5 tenths of a second, and that is faster than Callie Atkins. So that could signal everything right now. Callie Atkins could find that gap coming down if that McLaren behind the Audi can get past here. Oh, and there's we go. That is absolute carnage going on there. There's 2 cars forced in, and that is the number 41. Yeah, what a surprise to see that car involved in it again. And there's going to be more afterwards. You can just tell from Igor Ogorodnikov. That is... yeah, that's a difficult one to stomach, that.
Yeah, I always try and play devil's advocate and defend the guilty party, but yeah, there's no defending that. He just turned straight into the number 14 Unicorns of Love Porsche, didn't he? In a straight line. No need for that, really. Anyway, hopefully that team will be able to reset and refresh and come back cleaner and stronger for our next race. We know they've got the pace to fight for race victories. They've just got to maybe exercise a bit more patience. Right, this is the fight for, at the moment, third position, but it is about to become the battle for second, actually, yes, because Somalia has brought the 889 Bentley in, the pit window has closed, so everyone now has made their mandatory pit stop. So the gap stands then with 39 minutes to go at 18.2 seconds between first and second place. I absolutely agree with you, though. Callie Atkins is not as quick as Giuseppe Montalbano was in that Bentley earlier on, and I don't think he's as quick as a couple of drivers in this group, but they need to break through into second place, Mike Noble in particular, if he's going to have any chance of closing in on the race leader. Replay here of an incident further back. That's the Pulse SimSport Ferrari getting a bit of a helping hand out of the way there, coming out of turn number 5. That seemed a tad unnecessary, and I wonder if maybe that's another one that Race Control will be having a look at a little bit later on.
Yeah, they're certainly earning their pennies tonight at Race Control. A fantastic job that they do of stewarding these races, and just trying to see if Niels van de Kekkel, if they can get past them in that Audi and those other cars, then it's game on. But if they stay behind that McLaren, then I think Callie Atkins, although she may not have the raw pace that her teammate did, she's not going to be troubled. It's going to be a very, very straightforward win for Callie Atkins.
Well, we'll see. Oh, a replay there of... this was the... that's really unfortunate, that incident, isn't it? As the Ferrari was... I mean, if you're going to go round the outside, you have to, you know you're taking a risk, and you know that risk is that the car you're trying to drive round the outside of might just ease you wide over the curbs, and if that happens... well, let's see then. This was on board with the Ferrari. It's the 728 car ahead of us, which at the time was being driven by Leonardo Porco, trying to go around the outside into the right-hander there at 13. That was Porco running out wide, and of course we know that he would get a drive-through penalty for exceeding track limits. So we're now on the outside, going into the penultimate corner. Wait for the knock. Is there a knock there? The contact doesn't directly cause the spin, does it? It's a really difficult one, that. There is an argument to say that he was forced off the road, yes, but then is that specifically the reason for the spin? That one is a little bit harder to make a decision on. Well, yeah, they got a drive through for it, so it's a 15-second time penalty for the 166 car. That's Beetle Sim Racing's Sven Schluter, and then the 991 and 728. It was a drive through for the 728 for avoidable contact. So Leonardo Porco getting the penalty. So yeah, it's not the best to see, but again, I think that's it's a decision, and to be honest with you, look, we've seen decisions like that go either way. There's fault on both sides, and it's just one of those things. Both drivers just pushing the car beyond their limits, and it's unfortunate, but it could have been much, much worse. Well, but it sets the precedent now, doesn't it? The rest of the drivers know now that if you've got a car on your outside, you must leave them racing room, and as long as the penalties and the decisions are consistent with that, then that's absolutely fair enough. You drive within the rules. You also are supposed to drive within track limits, but that absolutely is not what Christie was doing then. As to the outside goes Mike Noble here on Van der Kerkelt, trying to get this second place away. He's getting a bit frustrated now, isn't he? Look, because he knows this is holding him up. He's feeling the pressure now from Christie and Malinowski behind, and he can see that they are no longer closing in on the race leader. Atkins is now nearly 20 seconds ahead again. So how long before Mike Noble goes for a really risky move? It's very easy for us to say from the comforts of our respective commentary positions, David, that he should just bank the points for a podium and not take the risk. But when you're being held up like this and you're being backed into people like Christie and Malinowski, all you want to do if you're Mike Noble is go for the lunge, get into second and disappear into the distance. But that is a real risk.
It absolutely is. And the problem is as you say, as commentators we can make that comment, but Arcesi makes a mistake there, and that hands the place to the Porsche on the inside there. Maciek Malinowski then takes that fourth position, and Hamada Arcesi showing just how easily you can go from hero to zero in the space of two corners. But again, we say it quite a lot. We say, you have to have balanced heads and stuff like that. And again, it's not something that I could have appreciated fully until, being behind the sim racing wheel and being behind the real life wheel as well. You're behind there and you've got a car in front of you, and I can absolutely guarantee you, as long as you've got a car in front of you, you're always going to try and take that position. It's just this instinct, this guttural switch that's there. It's just like, nah, I'm going to have that. You find it even outside of racing. You find it at the traffic lights as well. You just subliminally, you're like, yeah, I'm going to have that car in front of me. And it's very difficult to switch off. So as long as Malinowski's behind Noble, as long as Noble's behind, the car in front of him, there's always going to be that little voice in the back of the head saying, yeah, just fire it in. You can have that car.
Talking about, David, you would never catch me engaging in such yobbish behaviour at traffic lights. I don't know what goes on.
I thought you were trying to say you could never catch me at traffic lights. I was like, oh, that's a challenge right there, Andy.
Yes, indeed. Anyway, as we see the move made there, oh no, Mike Noble's made a mistake. Mike Noble has been off the road going through turn 13, that was, I think, and so up now a position. Does he maybe go Malinowski? Oh, Mike Noble's off into the barriers. Mike Noble heavily into the barriers out of the penultimate corner. What a shame, and that will send the FFS Sprint Mammals Audi straight into the pit lane. Well, lots had happened there because Maciej Malinowski had already got himself ahead of Christie. Then he challenged Mike Noble, and I can see on the timing screen that Christie's back ahead of Malinowski again now. So all kicking off there, typically just at the second we took our eyes off that battle.
Yeah, just watching Malinowski. The thing is that we obviously need to see a couple of replays from different angles on that one, because I think, again, we got a fleeting glimpse of it. There's an argument to say that Malinowski went to the outside and did the Audi come straight across, and did it give him enough room to come back on the track? Because it looked like he was trying to come back on the track, and that's a lot of damage there to the Audi of Mike Noble in pit lane. That is how you can go from everything to nothing in the space of one corner there. But again, Race Control going to have their hands full on that one. That is a very difficult instant. My gut says that Malinowski is going to get hauled over the coals for that one, but again, it'd be interesting to see exactly what happened. But the other thing is now, that means that Van der Kerkelt has been released as the car goes very wide. That was a 992. Having a huge moment there, and Malinowski goes straight on. So Malinowski's day just goes from bad to worse, gets things back on, but thankfully not looking like there's much damage to that car. If anything, I think he's just locked up the brakes and went straight on there. But yeah, look, Niels van der Kerkelt, the point it was a way to say there, is released. That'll be very interesting to see, because Van der Kerkelt potentially could catch back up. And look, yeah, see, there's what I mean. Malinowski was off, and he tries to bring himself back on. And is the argument there that he didn't get given racing room when really, did the Audi move over enough? But then there's plenty of runoff on that final corner as well. So we'll watch another replay here. This is on the final corner then, because remember that these incidents have to be reported. It's not automatically brought to the attention. So again, Malinowski goes off there and he tries to pull himself back through, and it's when he's bringing that car back on that he hits that other car. So I don't know. It's I think it's going to be a very difficult conversation for race control to have, to be sure.
Well, here's my take on that. We've already established from the incident earlier on that the car on the inside has to leave racing room for the car on the outside. Now, when that contact was made, Malinowski was not on the racetrack, so he had not been given the room to get back on the road. He wasn't punted out wide, granted, but he still, by my mind, should have been given room to come back on the road. Yes, he swerved left into Mike Noble, but he didn't want to hit that grass, because we saw earlier on what happens if you bounce over that grass. You can spin yourself off as well. So if it was my call, and thankfully for many reasons it's not, I would say that Mike Noble could have left more. He could have done a lot more to avoid that than Malinowski could have done, but it will certainly rumble on. We're on board now with Mike Noble, so this will be interesting. He's on the outside now, or he's going to be very shortly. Oh, he bounced over the curb, so he makes the first mistake, bounces over the curb, runs wide. That allows Malinowski up the inside. You can just see the front of the Porsche to the right of our screen. Then Mike Noble, look closely how close to the edge of the road he goes. He's right up to the white line, leaving no room at all for Malinowski to rejoin. I mean, Malinowski's not just going to slam on the brakes there, is he, and fade in behind the Porsche. He wants to try and get back on the road as soon as possible, and Mike Noble did him no favours at all.
Yeah, and being honest with you, the thing is that that's technically not off the track, because if it was off the track, it would be giving him a warning or mention about track limits. So you're perfectly entitled to use that runoff area to go there. So in fact, here we go. This is again, go back to that previous contact. It's slightly different. We'll talk about that in a second. So he goes up to the inside. So. Yeah, for me, I've got to be honest. That's on the Audi on that one. Yeah, that's. I think that's fairly clear cut. He's not even that far, off of the tarmac on that one. He's still within track limits. So, yeah, that's Mike Noble at fault on that one, in my opinion. The difference with that previous contact where we saw the Ferrari getting shown onto the grass was, if I remember rightly, and it was actually the car on the inside that went. It slid to the outside and actually collided with the car on the outside, forcing them off the part and into the grass there. So, yeah, it's a different one. But there you go. Malinowski actually gets a drive-through penalty for that. Then, wow.
So what do we know?
Oh wait, that's not for that. That's for track limits then. So he's not been penalised for that incident, but he's been penalised for track limits from the looks of it then.
Well, there you go. So suddenly it's all academic, really, isn't it? But here's the slow-mo. So, yeah, what we're saying, basically, as they come out of this left-hander, look at how much space Mike Noble has to the left-hand side that he could use. He could leave Malinowski a lot more room than he is. And Malinowski has to come back on the road before he hits that grass, because there's a big bump, and we saw earlier on that if you hit that at speed, you are likely to lose control completely. So, 100% agree with you, David. I would put that more on Mike Noble than Malinowski. Whether I'd give Noble a penalty, not too sure, because he's the one that ended up in the barriers. You could just say it was a racing incident, but I certainly wouldn't be pinning a further penalty, as it now turns out, on Maciej Malinowski. But either way, Malinowski has a drive-through for track limits, and that means now that the 47 and 27 McLarens, which have been joined at the hip throughout this race, are together again, fighting for second place. Christie to the outside. Now be careful, we've seen things go wrong multiple times through this corner, and thankfully Hamada Christie backs out of that one, but Van der Kerkel looks like he's on the ropes here, and now the Ferrari number 11 is right back with them as well.
Yeah, jumps over the curb there. That's going to slow him down, leaves him vulnerable to Hamada Christie here coming down into turn one, and you can see just how much more speed Christie and Jesse Kalpinen able to take into that first section of the track here. This is Alexander Sescher for Volante Racing in the number 23, taking over the car from Vanko Dimitrov. We saw that car involved in heavy damage earlier on. Oh, there's a little bit of a nudge there from Hamada Christie trying to get past Niels van de Kerkel there. Look at the car just wobbling over the curbs there, tries to move to the inside. That's defending from Jesse Kalpinen as well. So again, you're trying to fight for that position for that second, but you're also trying to defend your position as well. And I've got to be honest, Niels van de Kerkel, those tyres look to have gone on that car with 25 minutes left to go. Maybe he's just been a little bit over aggressive with them, but he doesn't seem to have the pace that Hamada Arkizi has at this stage in the race. And again, being honest with you, I think Callie Atkins now cruising off into the sunset, 23 seconds, 24 and a half seconds to the good now. It's their race to win in that 340.
Yeah, worth mentioning as well that these two McLarens both pitted on the same lap as well, so their strategy was the same, but you can see how much more grip Kitsi has than Van der Kerkelt, and no doubt about it, the 27 car is the quicker of these two right now, but as we've seen so many times in this podium battle, no matter who the players have been at any given moment, being quicker than the car in front of you isn't enough to guarantee an easy overtake. We've seen people be, the best part of a second a lap quicker than the car ahead, but as soon as they catch them, it's just so difficult to find a way past, especially, as in this case, when the two cars are near identical in performance. That's not the place to do it. There's a bit of tappy Morse code there on the back of the 47 car, as Kitsi just tries to rattle Van der Kerkelt. Can do a little bit of tapping like that as long as it's not a full push to pass, which it wasn't, because the position did not change. Karpinen as well, just keeping a watching brief now in 4th position. They head out of the left-hander at turn 6, down through the flat-out turn 7, which really isn't a corner at all. The next corner is the braking zone at turn 8. Akitsi selling the dummy, goes to the outside. Oh, I'm not even going to think about overtaking you here, he says, but if he'd have been close enough, I think he probably would have tried to fire it up the inside.
Yeah, could have been done. The 1, 2, 3 FFS Sprint Mammals, the Audi has retired from the race then. That damage was too much. And again, more little nudging there from Hamada Arkizi just behind Niels van de Kerkelt there. And also just looking for that drive-through, because that has absolutely sent Maciej Malinowski all the way backwards. I think they're pretty close to Igor Ogorodnikov there, and that was a little wobble there from Hamada Arkizi. Up the inside goes the Ferrari. They've got the run. It's a battle for 3rd place then, and the Ferrari goes up the inside, side by side between Arkizi and Jesse Kalpinen. The Ferrari doesn't manage to make that stick up the inside of Hamada Arkizi, and again it's back onto the back of 2nd place just now. Here is Maciej Malinowski for Random Past the Bull Racing, just ahead of Marcel Fusi in the that is a car a lap down there, the number 16 Unicorns of Love Sexy Edition, which is beyond 30th position just now, but gets that position. 34th it is. The Unicorns of Love Sexy Edition. The Porsche decides to think better of it and just pops it up the inside there of the other Porsche. Back to the battle though for 3rd place and 2nd place, and you've got to say, I mean, Niels van de Kerkelt, he's looking very, very comfortable. We saw Arkizi and the teammate there of Luke Whitehead. They tried everything they possibly could, but they just can't get past this number 47 UK OG McLaren.
I think if they're going to do it, it's going to have to be a mistake from Van der Kerkelt, but the good news for Akitsi is that Van der Kerkelt, a couple of laps ago at least, was making quite a lot of little mistakes, sliding the rear of the car around. Now, I wonder if maybe at some point he's overheated the rear tyres, and maybe now that he's settled back down again, he's brought those tyre temperatures down. I know that's something that has caught me out in the past on ACC. If you start sliding the tyres around, the tyres are very heat sensitive, aren't they? It's almost more sensitive to heat than they are to wear. And so it did look as though maybe that was the issue for Van der Kerkelt. He's settled back in again now, but he just can't shake off the STL Esports by Logitech G McLaren of Hamada Akitsi, can he? With now just over 22 minutes to go.
This race has absolutely flown by. We've got, as you said, just under 25 minutes left to go. It's looking in the bag so far for Callie Atkins, barring some lap traffic and a little bit of turbulence. That's all that they've got to deal with in that number 340 Omega E-Racing team outfit just now. Behind, though, it is all hands on deck for Niels van de Kerkelt in that number 47 UK OG machine, trying to fend off Hamada Arkizi, trying to fend off Jesse Kalpinen again, and tries to think about going up the inside, but quite honestly that was too far back from Hamada Arkizi. That was never ever going to be a realistic option to try and take that position. But again, it's about that pressure, and it's exactly what you said, Andy. If you're going to get past it, it's going to have to be an accident from Niels van de Kerkelt there, and you hate to see it. Right, that is so unfortunate. Arkizi lifted off completely to try and make sure that Van de Kekelt could get that position back and keep in position, and unfortunately got tagged on the back there from Jesse Kalpinen. A series of misfortunate events there, but Arkizi gives the position back to Van de Kekelt, and this now releases Jesse Kalpinen in the Ferrari. But I mean, that was just I've got a few words that I want to use for that one, Andy, but unfortunately none of them I can really use on stream right now.
It was really unfortunate because it was the tiniest of touches, but at that point the cars are really, really light at the rear because you're hard on the brakes, you're turning as well, so you're sort of pivoting the car on the nose, and so the rear wheels are almost lifting off the ground, and you could almost reach out and push the car around with your hand at that point if you could get close enough, and so a little tap in the rear was enough. Now, Christie has given the place back to Van de Kekelt, but they have both lost ground because the 11, 8, 8, 9 and 7 cars have all gone through, so I think a penalty will probably still be incoming, but race control sometimes look a bit more favourably on you if you redress the situation as best you can. So, well, we shall see again what comes of that one. There are still 20 minutes left for race control to make their final decision. Flavio Mancini, meanwhile, in the Racing Point Bentley, is on his toes to try and gain ground. Now, here's the replay. Look, it's the lightest of taps. Absolutely no malice in it, but you could see, try as he might, there was nothing that Van de Kekelt could do to save the car once he'd been given that initial push.
The problem is for race control is if they give Arkizi a penalty for that, then they've got to also give Jesse Kalpinen a penalty because he was ultimately the one that spun round to Mada Arkizi there. So it's a difficult one, isn't it? I mean, for me, that is a very, very unfortunate racing incident. I think the two involved, would go on to an onboard here, and I think the problem for Kalpinen is that he was quite far back, but I mean he doesn't know that Niels Van de Kekelt is going to spin here because they make contact. And Van de Kekelt doesn't spin until a little bit later on, so he's starting to go there. And the argument could be that Kalpinen should have maybe backed off a little bit more there, but realistically, I mean, I think that's just a very unfortunate racing incident. And again, this is why we're here as commentators, is that that's just our opinion. We don't have anything to do with race control, so we don't always get it right. But again, for me, that's just a racing incident.
We do occasionally get it right, though, because we got it right with the 123 and 992 incident. I saw a message a moment or two ago saying that was a racing incident, so we do sometimes know what we're talking about, but that one is a lot harder to call. I could see what Kalpinen was doing there. He went to the inside because he thought Van de Kekelt was going to spin to the outside of the corner, leaving a nice Ferrari-sized gap on the inside, but that wasn't actually the way that it transpired, and he ended up running into the pair of them. So that's going to be a discussion that might take a bit to unravel. What it does do, of course, is it promotes Kalpinen temporarily into second position, doesn't it? Into third place now goes the 889 of Danila Cherepenin, who I don't think we've even mentioned that 889 Racefield team car, certainly not throughout the second stint of the race. They started outside the top 10, so you can make progress if you stay out of trouble. Here's a driver that needs to make progress, though, Maciej Malinowski. He will be penalty-free, we know that, from the contact that he had with Mike Noble, so now he's just got to salvage what he can. They're 18th at the moment then, David, so they're in the points, but they really ought to be a lot further up than this.
And do you know what? It's nights like this, it's results like this that matter so much towards the end of the season, because you look at the qualifying that was so tightly contested there. We had 35 cars within 9/10 of a second. You better believe that the entire season is going to be that close. How badly is that incident going to cost him? How badly is this 18th position going to cost him? We'll just have to wait and see on that one. But he's lining up the number 23 Mercedes there very, very well of Alexander Sescher, who is just in front of him. And the Porsche making this look very, very easy. Don't be surprised to see Maciej Malinowski in the final 15 minutes getting back up into the top 15.
Well, he had a go there up the inside of the 23 Mercedes going through turn 2, which is an optimistic move to attempt, but it can sometimes work. The random past the ball car, though, looks again up the inside. The key here is for Malinowski not to get rattled by the fact that this race has unravelled in the way that it has. because if he does, and he then goes for another silly move, or not another, I'm not saying he made one in the first place, but if he goes for a silly move now on the 23 car that ends in contact and another penalty, they'll lose all of the points they might score. But he's up the inside cleanly into turn 8, and the Porsche does get the position. Runs a bit wide though on the exit. Rear engine traction though will keep him out of trouble as they climb that quite steep hill actually, up into the two right-handers at 9 and 10, where our latest controversial incident occurred just a couple of laps ago. Disappointingly, David, we're nearly into the final quarter of an hour of racing. The middle portion of this race has absolutely flown by, and still plenty of spicy battles to be determined inside and outside of the points.
I don't know about disappointing. I'm absolutely knackered after this hour and 15 minutes. What a race we've had. I mean, look, we were bigging it up in qualifying because obviously it was very, very close. But I don't think either of us expected it to be this explosive. And that's exactly what it's been. There's been contact. There's been some stunning drives. But for me, the drive of the day, 100%. Has to go to that 340 Omega E racing team of Giuseppe Montalbano and Callie Atkins. They've taken the race by the throat and they've just squeezed the life out of it within the first 10 laps, because while everybody else behind them was fighting, Giuseppe Montalbano was just setting fire to the lap times and really throwing that Bentley around the track to within an inch of its life there. So yeah, fantastic win on the cards at the moment, but again, as always, 15 minutes to go, and we've seen it too many times where something unforeseen happens in such a short amount of time.
It's races like these where actually you're quite happy not to be shown too much on the broadcast, because there's been so much going on behind that number 340 Omega E racing team Bentley that we just haven't had time to see much of them really. But that is a good thing, because it means they've avoided the drama, they've avoided trouble, they've avoided penalties, and they've just had a pretty nice, easy Thursday evening drive here to what looks like being a victory in round number 1 of season 4 of the SimGrid Sprint Cup. Now, Tobias Grunewald here for Unicorns of Love, dicing away for 26th place now here with the 112 McLaren, the TF racing car ahead. It's not worth any points, but they'll want to try and salvage the best result they can out of this one, I suppose. Unicorns of Love were definitely a team that I was looking at pre-race as being one of the favourites to score big points. This is a good Porsche circuit. We know this team is one of the top outfits out there, but again, things have just conspired against them a bit, haven't they, tonight?
Yeah, they had a fantastic qualifying session and it's all went horribly wrong. The opposite end of that scale, actually, a great point brought up by Cobus Nell on our YouTube chat here, as we see Hamada Arkizi get a 15-second penalty there. We'll get a word on what that is very, very shortly. Have a look at 15th position, the number 38 of Jan Willem van Ommen in that Dal King car. They were at the back of the pack. I'm sure they started 34th or 35th, if I remember rightly, and they're all the way up to 15th position. Right, okay. Remember how I said all those that time ago about 2 minutes ago about the leader and still having 15 minutes to go? The race leader is under investigation for an incident with the back marker. That is that's a little bit spicy for the last 10 minutes.
Why do we as commentators say anything ever? Because we are so talented at putting the mockers on people when it looked as though this race was pretty much unlosable for the Omega G Performance squad. And yeah, now this threat of a penalty perhaps hanging over them. Cars 47 and 27, by the way, have been investigated, and 27 Akitsi has unsurprisingly been given the penalty there for tapping the 47 of Niels van der Kerkelt around. That was that incident that we mentioned up at turns 9 and 10. So yeah, not a huge surprise there. 15-second penalty then for the 27 car. 15-second penalty. Is that harsh, do you think? That's the fairly standard punishment for that sort of incident, but Akitsi might have hoped to get away with a slightly smaller punishment because he did at least give one of the positions back to van der Kerkelt once they'd recovered.
Well, you've got to think that Jesse Kalpanen's going to be getting a penalty as well then, because obviously that was heavier contact from the 11 onto the 27, and yeah, that's okay. Well, we'll see how that one goes. With regards to your leader and under investigation, the gap is now 30 seconds between Atkins and Jesse Kalpinen, and the gap is kind of stationary there. So that is one hell of a plot twist with 11 minutes left to go. Look, there's no doubt, in my mind, I think Arkeezy's been a little bit hard done by on that penalty, but there just has to be surely a penalty for Kauppinen for that penalty as well. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're sitting down, and I'm going to apologise because I did kind of maybe jinx this one. With 10 minutes left to go, the leader, Callie Atkins, in the 340 Mega E-Racing team, is getting a drive-through penalty for contact with the 94. That's a distinct GG team of Rhys Tattersall and Josh Inman. A drive-through penalty is 44 seconds. Now, bear in mind that he's only 30 clear. Now, I'd like to know if the number 11 is under investigation at the moment, because that could mean that the Racefield Team 889 is in with a shout of this one. So, oh my goodness me, this could change everything on its head, because if they get that, they've got the drive-through, and if Jesse Kalpinen gets a penalty, oh my goodness me, Isabelli powers it right inside. If Jesse Kalpinen gets a penalty as well, that could mean the number 7 of Carbon Sim Sport is in P2 on the podium. So I'm not even going to say what I think is going to happen in this final 10 minutes of the race, because have a look at the 889 right now. Racefield teams, Daniela Sherapinen all over the back of Jesse Kalpinen.
Yeah, I hope Kalpinen doesn't get a penalty, because if he doesn't, this is going to be a sensational final 10 minutes of racing, because this is, wait for it, now for the race lead, because they have just gone past the Bentley, which is going through that achingly slow, achingly long pit exit. I'll tell you what though, it's not a huge gap, is it? Look at that, the gap between Callie Atkins and the race lead is absolutely nothing. So we've got 3 cars absolutely together now, Ferrari, an Aston Martin and a sideways Bentley that has led pretty much every lap of this race. And for the first time really all race long, Callie Atkins has a bit of a fight now to try and reclaim the race lead. This is game on, David.
It certainly is. 9 minutes left to go, and Callie Atkins has to be calm, has to be composed, has to be really, really sure of every move they're about to take past this Aston and past this Ferrari. This is also potentially going to bring Maris Dvorzidlo into the battle as well. As you see, Sherapinen trying to go into it, but goes very, very wide. And that Bentley, as much as it's trying to catch on to the back of it there, I think they're going to be trying to get a lap in, just try and calm themselves down and get back up to these lead 2. But Andy, I just could not have imagined that this is how this race was going to end.
You couldn't script it, could you? This is absolutely incredible. And well, I was saying that the 340 car hadn't had much screen time on the stream. Well, that is all changing now, because there it is. We're staring at that imposing front end of the Bentley Continental GT3 as it turns its way through the final quarter. So 3 different cars then, they're all going to make their lap times slightly differently. The Ferrari is good through the tight and technical sections, the Aston Martin and the Bentley are good through the high-speed corners and might have a bit of an advantage in a straight line. So is Kalpinen going to be able to hang on? He's got a 7/10 of a second cushion at the moment. The thing that might come to Kalpinen's rescue here is that Callie Atkins is already starting to ask some questions of Sherepinen here in second place. So if the Aston Martin driver has to start going defensive to hold on to his second place, that could allow Kalpinen to get ahead, whilst meanwhile, you're absolutely right, that number 7 McLaren is catching them significantly quicker on the previous lap. We're talking nearly a second quicker than Atkins, so it could well become a 4-way fight this before the end.
Interesting point. Only 3 cars in the top 10 in qualifying are still in the top 10 right now. That is absolutely absurd. Maris Dvorzidlo though for Carbon Sim Sport Blue, this is all on him now with 7 minutes left to go, because look at that Bentley. That Bentley just cannot get past can't get past Sherapinen in that second place, and it is going to be a 4-car battle. I tell you what, they've got the pace, they've got the momentum, that if they just decide to fire this in, that Bentley is a sitting duck right now with 6.5 minutes left to go. I'm quite fancying Maris Dvorzidlo for either second place or potentially the race win here.
He's arriving with momentum, isn't he? He's the quickest of these 4 drivers, and that is genuine pace as well. It's not like the leaders are really tripping over each other and holding each other up. So Marius is the fastest car at the moment in this lead group. Turns his way through the first corner there. They can use all of that runoff area on the entry to turn 1, by the way, just to open up the angle. He was on that lap, though, another half a second quicker than Atkins ahead, and about 3/10 or so quicker than Shereppanan in second place, who in turn is now 9/10 behind Kauppinen. In fact, that gap is over a second now, so I think Shereppanan is now more concerned with hanging on to second place, as well he might be concerned, because that's not going to be easy to do, than he is catching Kauppinen out in front. And you can see there the Bentley of Atkins really starting to apply the pressure now. So Kauppinen escaping, but a 3-way fight for second is really on the cards now, I think, with just over 5.5 minutes still to go.
Yeah, certainly is. That gap from first to fourth place, just 3 seconds. And I'd be interested to see how Tforzidlo can get that in, because look at Kauppinen. Kauppinen's still getting clawed back into Shereppanen and to Atkins as well. And they're on the run down here. This is just a sensational end to this first round of the SimGrid Sprint Cup Season 4 here at Misano. What a race, what a performance by these top 5 drivers. It's been an epic, epic battle. Jesse Kauppinen for Grippax Engineering Racing in the Ferrari in the lead, ahead of the 889 of Danila Shereppanen in second place, trying to hold on to that second place from Callie Atkins. And we see here Marius Tforzidlo in the 7 carbon SimSport Blue, just about 0.8 of a second behind that as well. It'd make that about 1.7, so that gap actually going up very, very slightly to Tforzidlo there. But again, Kauppinen now starting to get reeled in by these two ever so slightly. But again, I think Atkins is going to be trying to make the move this lap.
Yeah, it's been a good lap this though from Shereppanen. You're absolutely right. He closed in that time. He did a 35.1, Kauppinen a 35.2, so it was only half a tenth or so quicker. But in the first sector of this lap, the Aston Martin has gained a bit more again. We're on board though with Callie Atkins in third place. The car that started on pole built a lead of 29 seconds. 5 minutes ago, this car was in an unassailable position at the front of the field, and now here it is, third position, and about to have to maybe defend that third place from the number 7 McLaren behind. For the time being, though, Atkins has eyes forwards as they try and get back into this second place now, ahead of the Aston Martin that has crept out of absolutely nowhere, this 889 car, to suddenly be a factor for the race win. Through the quick right hand as they go. Running out of time though, aren't they now? Not a huge amount of opportunities left as there Hamada Akitsi is losing a place, I believe. That was the 27 car. Yeah, he's going to let a couple of others go too. That's actually the 15 car, which gets sideways and actually gives the place straight back again. So he gave the place up and then immediately gets it straight back again.
Yeah, Nick Kauppinen tried to make it work round the outside, but we've got 3 minutes 20 left to go in this race. Potentially that means then another 2 laps here. Look at the Bentley, tries to fire it in. It's very, very late onto the brakes, into turn 1, into turn 2, and Callie Atkins really throwing this big beast of a Bentley around the course here at Misano. Loses out quite a bit of pace there, and Tforzidlo trying to catch back up. But again, look at that Bentley, look at how quickly it can just gobble up any time difference between Shereppanen and Kauppinen up in front. But I do think he is starting to really, really see the benefits of being in that Aston Martin in second place right now. The Ferrari of Jesse Kauppinen though for Grippax Engineering in the money seats right now in that number 11. Who would have thought it just 10 minutes ago that Jesse Kauppinen was going to potentially take the win of this race, and touching the desk and every other block would have got available in this office right now, because Shereppanen still trying to catch back up. And the other thing is as well for Grippax Engineering, Jesse Kauppinen actually won the last race at Suzuka for season 3. So technically back-to-back winners right now, and looking very, very comfortable as we speak with 2 minutes left to go. This is, I would imagine, going to be the penultimate lap that they're about to start here.
I don't think we've ever had back-to-back wins for the same team, have we? We certainly haven't within the same season of Sprint Cup. I don't know whether we've ever had this overlap between the last race of one season and the first race of the next, but well, maybe it's going to happen, because they're heading now onto the penultimate lap of the race. Just 2 laps to go. The 41 car there we're seeing on the inset, Yaroslav Shvetelov is into the top 20 now, which means the 41 car, despite all of its trials and tribulations, is back into the points now, because remember the top 20 finishers score points at the end of the race. But the big question is who will score the maximum points for the race victory? Will it be the Kauppinen-driven Ferrari, which is getting away again now? Look, and Atkins actually is right on the tail of Schreppenen now as they head down into turn number 8. Surely the Bentley's going to have a go. The Aston Martin almost considered moving to the inside to defend, and in the end they stay as they were. The number 7 McLaren is closing into within a second of those two as well, and this is definitely playing into the hands of the race leader, I'd say.
Yeah, I think Jesse Kauppinen looking very, very happy with that gap that he's got over, especially the fact that Kalle Atkins now putting so much pressure on that Aston Martin. That is allowing Marius Tvorzidlo, as you said, in that number 7 Carbon SimSport Blue machine to catch right back up to it. And this is it. This is going to be the run on the Aston Martin. It's going to be the late breakers is going to how this is going to be all resolved and all determined here. Fires up the inside, the Bentley goes for the move. There's little the Aston can do. There's a little bit of contact there. The Bentley gets the move done, but does the Aston have the inside line for the corner? It's that old chestnut again of the move comes off, and there you go, Kalle Atkins. Oh, there's contact! Keeps it going. Kalle Atkins keeps the foot in, but look at Tvorzidlo. Tvorzidlo is going to have the pace, and potentially the Carbon SimSport machine is going to be into second place. It is unbelievable. Marius Tvorzidlo on the last lap of the race jumps into second place. Huge move there for Carbon SimSport Blue, and that is intense. Oh my goodness me, that Bentley wants to take that second place. But Andy, that was incredible opportunism there for the McLaren.
And I'll tell you what, this is not over yet either, because Kalle Atkins is going to be so frustrated, did all of the work to get second place and then got a tap in the tail into the last corner. And so, as you said, Tvorzidlo went straight through into second place, but there's still over half a lap to go. Meanwhile, for the number 11 of Jesse Kauppinen, he's loving this. He's 3.1 seconds up the road now. The race victory looks as though it's going to go the way of the Gripax Engineering Ferrari. But who will join him on the podium and in which order? At the moment, it is the number 7 Carbon SimSport Blue McLaren of Marius Tvorzidlo in second place, with the 340 Bentley in third of Kalle Atkins. That's going to rumble on right to the flag, I think, as they head into the final set of corners.
Unbelievable stuff, but it's all about Jesse Kauppinen here. Opportunism at its very, very best, sharing that car, of course, with Unisalva line, and it's been an epic performance from Gripax Engineering. They come out the final corner here at Misano to cross the line and win round 1 of the Sprint Cup Season 4 here at the SimGrid. Across the line in second place, it's a drag race, but it's going to be McLaren of Marius Tvorzidlo taking second place there for Carbon SimSport Blue. Third place goes to the Bentley there. An amazing run towards the end there. The 340 and Mega E Racing team are going to be absolutely kicking themselves at what could have been. It could have been such a different race. It was looking so comfortable with 15 minutes to go, and that drive-through penalty turned everything on its head. This is the battle for P19. Marcel Fusi trying to hold on ahead of the Mercedes of Alexander Sescher. That's going to be it then into the final couple of corners then. The run down to the final corner there. Behind them though, they've got a battle between Cormac Ryan Meenan and Chris Sever as well. They all keep going. This is amazing stuff there. Chris Sever and Ryan Meenan trying to fight it out, but it's all very clean. A little bit of a wiggle there from the Porsche of Tobias Grunwald in the 14, comes across the line. Wow. Andy, that is probably one of the most epic final 15 minutes in a race I think we've had the pleasure of seeing here on the SimGrid. It could have been so different for Yaz Heats, Jaroslav Hontig. They got an early drive-through penalty and they've never really recovered from that.
Yeah, that wasn't bad, was it? That was very good stuff. I wonder if I don't think we have heard the last of that mix-up going on to the final lap. I think maybe Daniil Sharapanan might have a penalty on the way, because that tap in the tail of Kalle Atkins, I would say, cost the 340 car second place in the race. But what a tremendous battle. That race had it all, didn't it? It had great side-by-side battles throughout the field. It had a bit of drama, a bit of controversy, a few talking points with incidents dividing opinion. It had a late sting in the tail for the dominant race leader. I mean, you have to feel for the Omega E Racing team, because they really didn't put a foot wrong apart from that one little collision with the back marker. And it's a great example of how you can't take your eye off the ball even if it looks as though it's impossible to lose the race, because you still have to execute everything perfectly. Don't pick up a track limits penalty, don't have a collision with a back marker, and unfortunately that came to bite them. And then it all boiled down to a thrilling on-track battle at the end, just as it should. I mean, you really couldn't ask for much more out of a motor race than that. That was superb.
It was amazing stuff, and to be honest, to give Omega E Racing team credit, the only reason they were able to still keep that going to the end is because of the incredible gap they pulled out in that first 3/4 of the race. Giuseppe Montalbano and Callie Atkins doing equal parts in just really tearing chunks out of the lap times, and doing a brilliant job in staying out in front and leaving everybody to fight with themselves there. And again, incredibly unfortunate to get caught up with a back marker there. But this is sim racing. These are the things that happen, and compared to real life motorsport, that's exactly the same thing that can happen as well. We see it time and time again through all the different championships as well. But like, that was a thrilling race, and I think every single one of these drivers that's finished this race tonight, and they can leave with their head held high, no matter where they finished in the order. Thrilling action all the way through, and they give us one of the classic classic races here at the SimGrid.
And doesn't it just whet the appetite for the rest of the season? I think we're in for an absolutely cracking season of racing. There's a poll, by the way, in the YouTube chat. How many more races do you think that number 11 Ferrari might win? Well, in the 3 seasons that we've had so far of the Sprint Cup, the team that won the opening race have only ever gone on to win again that same season once, and that was last season with our champions, the BMW Team G2 esports team, the only team that have managed to win the first race and one other throughout the course of the season. So who knows, they might have the odds stacked against them now as they head into the rest of the season.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Well, let's get into the interviews then, because we've got Callie Atkins from the 340 Omega E Racing team in to have a chat with us. Callie, good evening. Firstly, commiserations on what should have been a very strong win for yourselves tonight. I guess it just wasn't to be.
Yeah, it was a bit really frustrating, really, having that massive gap, and blue flags were shown, and just thought he would just move out the way, and he just didn't, and got that drive through, and that really messed it up. And then getting into second, getting hit out the corner, losing second, yeah, just really frustrating. Should have been a dominant win. Giuseppe drove an amazing stint 1 in quali, and yeah, just need to move on.
And obviously, I mean, taking some perspective out of things, third place, I mean, it's a fantastic still start to the season. How are you personally going to move on from this, Callie? How do you, because obviously I'm presuming it's not the first time you've had a frustrating evening like this, how do you personally dust yourself down mentally and get your head back in the game for our next round, which is obviously going to be at Kyalami?
Just forget about the race and work for a better setup for the next round, which we will do.
Awesome stuff. Well, look, I'm not going to dwell on it too much, but a fantastic performance from yourself and Giuseppe, and hopefully the cookie crumbles a different way for you for the rest of the season, Callie.
Yeah. I'd like to say a massive thanks to Omega E by G Performance for the support and the setups. They've been amazing today. Should have been our win. And my uncle Tim Blacksmith for sponsoring me, and my dad and my mum for always supporting.
Well, awesome stuff, Callie, and we say a hearty thanks for you as well. Thanks very much for joining us, and hopefully you have a better run of luck in the future races. There we go. Callie Atkins. Callie Atkins there, and Andy, I don't know about yourself, but I mean that tugs at my heartstrings just talking to him there, and you can hear how distressed he is.
Yeah, you can hear the dejection in his voice, and I totally understand, that he would have probably been writing his victory speech for much of that stint that he was in the car through the second half of the race, but it can go wrong in a flash, can't it? For others, though, it can go right in a flash, and that was the case for the Carbon SimSport Blue squad. Damien Paulus is with us now. He was watching on as his teammate Marius, who also I think is with us now, was in the car for that second stint. Damien, we'll start with you. What was going through your mind there as you were watching your car move up into second place in the final stint?
First of all, I was expecting it, maybe because, it's last lap of the race and things are getting really spicy. And I was really happy that Mariusz did a really good race for us, and the pace was great, actually.
And Marius, talk us through it from your perspective, because you were right in that battle, and you picked exactly the right spot to aim for to get past both of those cars in one. I bet you couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it's just like what you said earlier. I wasn't happy with my pace, and because of that, we didn't pass the Bentley when they were in the pits. And later I was just hoping that something like that would happen, and it happened in the perfect spot where I could just overtake them both on the straight. Really unlucky for them, but I was really happy.
And what do you think now your chances are moving forward through the rest of the season? Because this car we expect to be quick at every round. What do you think? Can you be a contender for the championship even?
Yeah, I think that's possible if we can keep the races clean, of course, without incidents and without any drive-through penalties for cutting. I think we can go for more podiums, maybe even a race win.
Well, we'll wait and see. Best of luck for the rest of the season, guys, and congratulations, and thank you for providing a really entertaining end to the race.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
David, I'm sure you'll agree with me that that car, the antics of that car there in that final stint will be remembered fondly for a long time. That was a brilliant battle and great opportunism there to pick the right spot and benefit from the battle ahead.
Yeah, they were sounding particularly shocked, I think, to take that second place, and rightly so. But we've got our race winners, Jonas Salvlainen and Jesse Kalpinen from Gripax Engineering in with us just now. Good evening, Jesse. Good evening, Jonas. Jonas, we'll start with yourself. Firstly, you must be fairly happy to take that race win, given how frantic that opening half hour was.
Yeah, it was actually good payoff for all the effort that I had to do on the first stint, because that was hectic. That's all I can say, really. Constantly avoiding people and defending and attacking and everything at the same time. I was pretty heated at some point during the race, shouting to Jesse that what on earth is happening here? I don't understand anything. But yeah, it was a good win.
Just on that note, Jesse, I want you to talk us through those final 5 minutes when the three cars behind you were all kicking off with each other. How loud was Jonas on voice chat?
He didn't shout actually at all.
I'm thoroughly disappointed, but I mean, you must have been looking in your mirrors and you must have been delighted seeing that.
Yeah. I'm kind of speechless at the moment. Weirdest race that I ever done. Pace was
I was just about to say,
yeah.
I was just about to say on that point, because obviously it was so topsy-turvy. I mean, for the majority of the race, the Bentley was absolutely dominant, and there must have been a point where you thought, right, if we get a podium, awesome. And then that final 15 minutes, I mean, you must have been thanking your lucky stars to be put in that position.
Yeah. Actually, I was happy if we get top 6 or top 5, but then people started disappearing from front, so lucky Finn.
And then moving forward to the rest of the season as well, to the pair of you, we've got Kyalami coming up in a couple of weeks, and the Ferrari, it tends to be a bit of a well-balanced car. How are you finding it, having that 30 kilograms of ballast?
Well, I don't think the 30 kilograms of ballast does anything, but personally I like Ferrari. It's really nimble car, and it turns well. But we still need to learn how to set it up properly and how to conserve the tires and all this kind of stuff. Because this was literally our first week we drove Ferrari ever for both of us.
Well, a fantastic performance nonetheless. Congratulations, Jonas Salvalainen, Jesse Kalpinen, a stunning race win there for Grip Hacks Engineering, and good luck with the rest of the season, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oispokalia.
So there we go then, Andy. That is race 1 done and dusted of season 4 of the Sprint Cup. A huge thank you to our commercial partners, to Thrustmaster as always, and to Coach Dave Academy for their continued support. But I mean, we need 2 weeks to just recover after that one, don't we?
Yeah, it's going to take the entire 2 weeks before Kyalami, I think, to dissect everything that happened in that race. But what a brilliant race it was, and worthy winners as well. You know, there was a bit of luck involved there, most definitely for the Grip Hacks Engineering squad. But they put their car in the right place at the right time. They capitalised on other people's mistakes and came through to take a win that actually we should have predicted, because of the 4 season openers that we've had now in the Sprint Cup, 3 of them have been won by a Ferrari. So only 1 season we have not had a Ferrari win the first race. So yeah, we probably should have seen that coming, really, shouldn't we?
Yeah, the writing was on the wall. As a reminder, 2 weeks' time for the next round at Kyalami for the SimGrid Sprint Cup Season 4. It's a packed month this month here in July for the SimGrid. As we said, we have got more action coming up through the week. We have also got action coming up next week as well. We've got more female racers by Thrustmaster Rockets. That's the end of season party for that. We've also got the Endurance Cup Season 3 on the 24th of July, Sprint Cup at Kyalami on the 22nd. Head over, get yourself signed up, look at how packed that grid is as well, not just from the SimGrid but from all the hosted community events as well. If you've got a community on Assetto Corsa Competition and you fancy getting your events hosted here as well, get in touch with the SimGrid and find out how. I've been David Christie. Andy, any final words for tonight?
Can we do it all again in 2 weeks, please?
More of the same at Kyalami is on the menu. That's been Andy McEwan. I've been David Christie. On behalf of everyone here at the SimGrid, huge thank you to the background staff, the production team of Mike Yao and Michael Hamlet as always. And we'll see you in 2 weeks' time for more of the same at Kyalami.